Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We truly appreciate it. Welcome to the June 8, 2021 business meeting. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we are joined by 6 of our board members, our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Timothy P. Harney, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Ted Fulton, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Mr. Richard Snyder, our District Legal Counsel, Mr. Ed McCarthy, our District Clerk, Ms. Suzanne Bonetti, and our Student Rep, Mr. Robert Honey. Just a few announcements before we get into our recognitions. There are 2 opportunities for the community to participate. The first one's going to be after all the presentations, and the last one's going to be at the end of the meeting. If you'd like to speak tonight, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you'd like to speak, can you please let us know if you live in Bayport Blue Point? If you are not a resident, the board must vote you in with a majority of the vote. For the convenience of all the community members, all of our board meetings are taped and posted thereafter to the district website. If you'd like to follow the district on Twitter, you can follow the district at BBP Schools. If you want to follow Dr. Harney, you can follow Dr. Harney at BBP Soup. And we just one reminder, we do respectfully ask that everyone put their mask on tonight. And we do appreciate all the retirees that are here tonight. We appreciate everyone who is here tonight with receiving tenure. And we also want to give a congratulations to all the students who will be getting awards tonight as well. So it's a special night tonight. We're so thankful that we can do things like this in Bayport Blue Point. Without further ado, we will turn it over to Dr. Harney for his retirement and tenure celebration. Dr. Harney, how are you tonight, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. So first of all, it was nice to see everyone upstairs a little while ago, and it's great to see everyone here tonight. So thank you very much for coming out. I really do appreciate it. We do have a lot of recognition and a lot of awards and a lot of people to thank tonight. So I appreciate everyone making their way out tonight and for their patience. First of all, I'd like to start with our retirees. I got to speak to them a little bit upstairs. I should probably put the right retirees and the tenure people here together. I just really would like to thank all of you for everything that you've done. Whether that if you've spent, countless years here, or if you're just starting out. Especially over the last 15, 16 months, the things that we've been able to do at district has been quite impressive. And a lot of it has to do with everybody in this room. So I'd like to thank you for that. I am very proud to be the superintendent of this district, and it really is because of all of you that I work with. So thank you very much for that. For our retirees, I was reminded because I was talking with the tenure people, and it was, all right, you're just about to start out. And then really, some of the retirees reminded me that they're just starting out too. So it's almost like both groups of people are getting a start over tonight. So I'd like to congratulate them. To our retirees, again, thank you for everything. I wish you the best of luck. I hope you get to do whatever it is you want to do. For our tenure folks, what I can say to you is, keep doing what you're doing. It's often what I say. This is an opportunity for you to continuously grow as a staff member within the Bayport Blue Point School District. We're looking for you to continue to grow. We know everything that you do is geared towards our students, so I'd like to thank you. So saying that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to people who would like to really say something. We're going to start with our retiree group. So I'm going to start actually with Mr. Haas, since you're right to my right. I'm going to start with you.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. On behalf of Bayport Blue Point High School, I do want to congratulate all of our retirees and all of our teachers that are receiving tenure this evening with that. So I am going to be honoring some of the people that are retiring from the high school. I will start with Laura Fasani. Laura retired this past January, on January 8th, after more than 30 years of dedicated service to the Bayport Blue Point community. She joined the district in the 1988-89 school year. She was a mainstay in the high school guidance office, helping not only the staff, but thousands of our students during her time. Not many people can say that they've had the impact on almost every student that had walked through the halls of Bayport Blue Point High School. We're grateful for all the time and effort that Laura has given to the district. On a personal note, Laura and her family will always hold a special place in my heart, in that when I bought my house with my wife about 18 years ago, I walked into the school into the guidance office, and she informed me that it was her family's home, or a home that was in her family. So they will always hold a special place. So I congratulate Laura, and I wish her nothing but the best in retirement. You got to stand up. You can come up front for a second. The next person that I'm honored to speak about tonight is Ms. Therese Blake. Ms. Blake has been working in the Bayport Blue Point School District since 1987 as an English teacher, starting her career at the time James Wilson Young Junior High School. After many years in the junior high, then middle school, she eventually made her way to the high school. The impact that she has had on students over the years in the course of her career is immeasurable. For those who have had her, would often describe her, and I even heard some students and even herself say it yesterday, as very serious. I like to say it's more professional, but she has that tone in the classroom. However, Ms. Blake is one of the most caring people that I've had the fortune to work with in Bayport Blue Point. I want to share a story that I've never shared with her that exemplifies the lasting impact that she can have on someone. It's a story back when she was at the middle school from a 7th grade classroom. Sadly, during the course of that year, one of the students in the class had lost their mother to cancer. While that is obviously, for that student, it is tragic, the impact that that can have on a group of 7th graders, no one can ever tell. They have a difficult time handling it, understanding how to act around that other student. What happened over the next few weeks showed the person that Ms. Blake was. She showed a level of compassion to all of her students, and it stuck with so many. She showed her students that it was okay to show their feelings. That serious tone had turned to one of compassion. I was one of the students in that class. So it is something that I have remembered that and seeing the way that she acted with our entire class during that time. And that has stuck with me and been something that has inspired me throughout my career. So I thank her greatly for everything that she has done, not only for me, but for the entire Bayport Blue Point School District. Everyone will also have the opportunity to see the impact that she's had on others in a couple of weeks on News 12. Yesterday, she was surprised by a Bayport Blue Point alum, Kevin Marr, who is the director of sports for News 12. Yesterday, he surprised Ms. Blake. He had her as a middle school teacher as well, back in the late 1980s. And yesterday, he came and surprised her at the high school and talked about the impact that she's had. So I congratulate her and just want to thank her for everything that she has done for everyone in Bayport Blue Point. So congratulations. We do have two other retirees that I don't believe are here this evening, but I did want to just mention their name. We have a teaching assistant, Diana Ubelacher, who joined the district in 1999, and Allison Worthington, a social studies teacher, who started in the district in 1990. I will be recognizing both of them in the high school before the end of the year, but I want to congratulate them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Congratulations to everybody, all the award recipients tonight on all these great honors. For the record, I am honoring our retiree from James Wilson Young, Mr. Muller, who I have been mistaken for since I shaved my head more times than I can count. I've had more kids ask me questions about science research. I was a social studies guy, so I don't know anything about science. Mr. Muller has worn many hats during his time here at BBP. He served as teacher in charge and advisor for Ecology Club, Science Olympiad, and Student Council. He has coached track and cross country, and we will have a hard time replacing him as the JWI referee for our pep rally activities. Throughout his years at BBP, Mr. Muller is someone who lived and breathed science and always did his best to make his students fall in love with the subject. As I was going through his file, I came across some letters from former students that I'd like to share, as I thought they would truly capture the impact that he had on his students. Mr. Muller, From the moment I started Science Olympiad, you helped me get through the hard stuff. If I had to pick a favorite teacher this year, it would definitely be you. Next year, I hope we do even better. I am going to work my heart out so I can win first place in Crime Busters and beat those dorks from Jolinas. Sorry for my Three Village friends out there. I will never forget the fun and the explosions we've had this year. Every time someone mentions sodium, the BOE should probably close their ears for this one. I think back to the time we almost blew the hood up when you put sodium in water. Thanks for the great memories and the skills you've given me. The second one said, Mr. Muller, every day in your class was entertaining, and you've definitely made science an enjoyable class for all. Your class was always a bright and brilliant start to the day, and Science Olympiad was an unforgettable trip. Good luck, and have a Mullerific summer. With that being said, Eric, I wish you a Mullerific retirement. Congratulations. We do have a teaching assistant retiring from James Wilson Young Middle School that I don't believe is here, Ann McGuire. I would like to offer her congratulations, and we will be honoring her at the middle school at a future date. Thank you.
Good. Again, congratulations to everyone. It's a nice way to end the year with some positivity. I have one teacher that I would like to recognize for her retirement, and then a group of teacher assistants. So I'm going to start with Linda Cohen. Linda Cohen began her career in the Bayport Blue Point School District in 1986 as a speech and language teacher. She actually began at Sylvan Avenue, and then 8 years later, she transitioned to Academy Street, where she is still working today. You know what? My eyes are so bad these days. That's what happens when you get old. Although Linda made the decision to retire this year, it was in no way visible to the students or staff with whom she worked. And I will tell you, it was not an easy decision. Linda had many conversations about this, if this is the right time. And I don't think it's ever the right time when you love working with children. But I think for Linda, she knew that this was the time. But that same passion and devotion that were with her when she began teaching still fill her classroom today. She is professional in every aspect of her demeanor, from her dedication to honing her craft to her relationship with students, colleagues, and parents. And her focus is always steadfast and what's best for children. Those are the decisions that Linda makes. But she's been so instrumental throughout her career. There's a program at the Bayport Blue Point Schools called EIP, Early Intervention Program, that supports the language development of our youngest students, learning language and learning concepts. That's still a program that we utilize today. She shares her experience and her expertise with her colleagues and supports them. Every new teacher that comes through, she's working with them. She works as a mentor, not just for teachers in the speech and language program, but throughout the building. She's a wonderful mentor and really helps steer these young students, young teachers as they are starting off on their career. And if you know Linda, you know how to laugh, because Linda makes everyone laugh. She certainly is a true friend. She gives advice. She's really one of the heart and souls of Academy Street. She runs so many of our events for our students. Even in these days when the events aren't what they typically are, she's working behind the scenes to see that we have an amazing time with our students. She led the dance party station today at Field Day, so we thank her for that. And the next stage of her career, she's going to be providing supervision to young teachers, again, starting out their way as a supervisor of students in the clinical fellowship year in speech and language. But also, of course, she'll be with her family. Her boys are in Colorado and Washington and maybe even Japan, one of them. So Linda will be spending some time outside of Bayport visiting with her boys. And Linda, we wish you a well-deserved retirement full of health and happiness. May your memories of Bayport Blue Point be lighted by the smiles of the children whose lives you touched. So, congratulations, Linda. You want to do the dance? She just told me thank you in Japanese. That was awesome. This is in no particular order, ladies. It's kind of how I wrote it down. So Val Mojado. Val is a teacher aide who began her career in Bayport Blue Point as a greeter at Academy Street, which I found, I just was reading through the files and realized that that's how you started with us. From there, she took on a full-time position in 2007 as a one-to-one aide, working with children in special education programs or children with special health or behavioral needs. She actually became an expert for us in working with children with diabetes. Val really had several children throughout the years at Academy came through who had diabetes, and for sometimes when children were just diagnosed, she was such a source of comfort for the families, being able to help them navigate what it's going to be like from the school side. And one of the great things about Val is she really is connected with the families, not just with the children. There's a comfort there. She's working with a little boy this year as well, not with diabetes, but with some other social issues. And what's been phenomenal is that almost every child that's worked with Ms. Mojado has been able to transition away from the dependence on that one-to-one person to becoming independent and helping go to the middle school, being able to navigate their own health needs without having an adult there. And she's done all of that with kindness and compassion and understanding. And really that's going to be big shoes to fill because that's not an easy role to play. And because she has helped some of her children transition away, she's come on over to help us in the main office. I'm not sure that you know, but Academy is really down a faculty member. My secretary had passed away this year, and Val has been nothing but supportive and jumping in and how can I help? And I really, truly appreciate that, Val. It's certainly been really one of the things that's helped me make it through this year. And I know you too will be traveling. I think you guys have an RV. She and her husband are going to be spending some time in some different places as they find a new home that's outside of Bayport. So I know you've been busy packing, and we wish you well. And I hope that you have very many adventures ahead in your retirement, and we wish you all the best happiness and success, Val. Okay. We have to move that team down here. Thanks. So we're going to move you, girl, down here. Thanks. Congratulations. Thank you.
I'm smiling like they're going to see.
Yes, yeah, you're smiling. They can see it in your eyes, honey. And Loretta. If you know Loretta, all you got to say is, if you know Loretta, you're never going to forget her. So we have Loretta Rupert. She began in 1999 as a part-time teacher assistant. She worked in a variety of roles, children with special education. She even was a lunch aide for many years, and again, not an easy task. But in 2009, she took on a full-time position in our LEAP program, so working with children with one-to-one, as a one-to-one, children with significant developmental disabilities. She has been a mainstay of that program, helping support the students and even her colleagues as we have new TAs transitioning in. She's been a wonderful support. But Loretta really is able to work with those children who really have significant challenges. She has a patience like no one I know, and she really is able to show that tough love. And she has really worked miracles with some of our children. Last year in particular, there was a little child who was having a lot of difficulty, not only at school, but at home. And then, of course, when we had COVID, Loretta would be on the Google Meets, talking to him and coaching him through and just showing him that true love that she had for students. And I know how much the love that she shared with children has really, really touched their lives. And they definitely will miss having her there. And Loretta herself, I hope you don't mind, but she went through some personal things herself. She was out for several months battling cancer, and she has come back strong. And we were thrilled to welcome her back. And this team will know she came back a little too strong. We got to tone down those muscles, Loretta. But no, it's been amazing to have her back and being back working with the students and just jumping in, seeing again, what can I do? How can I help? So Loretta, that presence of yours will forever be missed. And although I said Linda's halls are going to echo with the smiles of the children, our halls of an academy will always echo with your laughter, and they will certainly never be loud again. I think it'll be quiet without you. We'll miss you, Loretta, and we'll never forget you. So, congratulations.
Love you.
Roe Walden. Roe Walden also has worked as a TA in our LEAP program. She's actually one of the ones who started from day one. Her 15 years in Bayport Blue Point has been working in this program with our children. She has always been a team player. She's been a constant support, quiet, professional, always there, flexible, what needs to get done, and also, again, helping as new teachers and new assistants came through. She was always there to kind of give some guidance and support the children and support her colleagues as we went through different changes each year. This year, she moved from one very challenging child to another and has had a patience that is really needed to work with some children who definitely have some difficulty sometimes just settling down, and her presence is there. She's continually prompting the children, coaching them to be the best that they can be academically, socially, and emotionally. And we really, really appreciate what she has done. And I wish I could describe the patience that she does have to be able to work with children and make them also feel loved and connected to school, and really helping them develop. These are little young children who, with guidance, learn to navigate their own social and academic worlds because of the support of teacher assistants like Ro. So again, we thank her for all that she has done to support the school and support the children. And we know that the support that you've given to your colleagues and to the teachers and to the students, that's going to be the legacy that you leave behind. Thank you, Ms. Walden, for all you've done for our kids, and we wish you the best in retirement. Yeah, Ro just laughed. She said, we clean up nice. We all came from field day today, so we're all a little sweaty out here. And finally, I would like to recognize Jane Jacoby. Jane Jacoby began her career in 1986 as a teacher assistant. When I look back through her files, I noticed that she started with reading, which is kind of funny because I've always known Jane as the math support. But when I started my career at Academy, Jane was there as the math AIS support teacher, and she did a phenomenal job working with our children, predominantly in grades 3, 4, and 5. So if you have a student who came through Academy, you probably know Ms. Jacoby. She didn't just help the children who were in those support programs, she helped anyone. Math can be a challenge for many kids, especially 4th and 5th. It can be a challenge for many moms and dads when they get up there too. So Ms. Jacoby was more than willing to step in and help navigate the variety of math programs. We went from everyday math to Common Core math to Pearson math, and each step of the way she was there to support the kids, to support the teachers, and really support the building. In addition to that, she was doing assessment testing for us, which is a lot of organization and coordination. And Jane also really was a part and a heart of the school. Whatever activities we had, whatever special events we had, she was right there to help develop them and to support the children and to be creative and even take part in some of those activities. And Jane actually left us already in October, so she's had an opportunity to get taste of the retirement life, and I don't think she's really unhappy with it. So we wish her continued success for the retirement that she's already had. And then, Janie, before you come down, this is for all of my ladies up there. In this career, you rarely know the impact that you have made on the lives of the children with whom you work. Yet you've dedicated years to supporting young learners, not only academically, but emotionally as well. And although you may never really know the answers as you retire, you can be confident that the time and talents that you shared with your students certainly made a difference in their lives. You've given so much of yourselves to others. Now it is time to go and focus on yourselves. Celebrate the new lives you are beginning. Go out, begin new adventures. We'll be waiting to hear from you. And best of wishes for a happy, healthy retirement for all of you. So, Jane, come on down. Yeah, I missed you too. You did a great job. Thank you. I forgot, I did mention Miss Tully did not come tonight. She's one of our TAs who is receiving tenure tonight. Miss Tully has actually gotten tenured before. She's been working with us for many years, so she'll also be recognized at a later point at the school. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I am here to recognize one of Blue Point Elementary School secretaries, Bev. And I knew I was lucky when I had Bev as one of my secretaries when I came in on the first day, and everything was color coordinated and there were maps and graphics everywhere. And I'm like, oh, we're going to get along really well. She has just done a great job of helping me in this position for the last 3 years. She is amazing with graphics. Like I said, she sends home a calendar every month to the parents that they look forward to. And there's things once in a while that I'm meeting with the principals and they'll be like, I think Bev has that. And she has it really pretty and makes lots of graphics with it. So we will definitely miss those on a monthly basis. Her biggest task is really doing the school's budget. And Rich, hold your ears. I don't know. She always seems to find money somewhere to be able to help us purchase things here and there. So we will certainly miss that as well. I know as she goes off into retirement, she's going to spend a lot of time with her grandchildren. I know that she's really excited about that, traveling because they're not nearby. And the other thing is that she just really is a really nice person, always checks in on you, makes sure that you're doing okay. She can tell when you're having a bad day and tries to make you laugh as well. And I don't think it's too late, right? I think she still can. Nope, you're retiring. Okay. So I wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done, and the school will certainly miss you, and thank you.
Good evening, everyone. At Sylvan Avenue this year, we had the very bittersweet experience of bidding farewell to a number of support staff workers who've gone on to write the next chapter in their life story, and that's called retirement. They've all retired already, so here we are celebrating them at this occasion, but we did celebrate them earlier in the school year as well. We miss our colleagues, their friendships, and their contributions to our overall educational program at Sylvan Avenue, but we are thrilled that their time is now filled with doing all of the things that they love to do. We congratulate Mary Ann Perna, Donna Verdone, Lori Yates, Trish Caminiti, and our main office secretary, Patty Lapp, on their retirements. I think we only have Mary Ann and Lori here. I don't see Patty Lapp. Okay. So I'm going to start with Mary Ann. And Trish left, so we did see Trish earlier. Mary Ann Perna started her career at BBP as a teacher aide at James Wilson Young Middle School 33 years ago in 1987. She moved over to Sylvan Avenue very quickly, probably the next year, and served in the same capacity until 2002, when she was hired as a teacher assistant, specifically at Sylvan Avenue in our computer lab. Mrs. Perna was a terrific support to the faculty and the staff at a time when computers began to be used more regularly, even email. And smartboards were initially being installed. Whether you needed a battery for a remote or a printer wouldn't print or the smartboard wouldn't turn on, Mrs. Perna was always able to troubleshoot problems and get things up and running. In addition to her support in the area of technology, Mrs. Perna, in her time at Sylvan, attended and chaperoned many school events, homecoming parade, concerts, and moving up ceremonies. She even rode the bus in the afternoon if she was needed. She served on Sylvan's SIT committee and the district safety committee, and she created the first 5th grade Sylvan Avenue Through the Years video. Having such a long career in Bayport Blue Point made her a bit of a historian, as we would imagine, after 33 years. And as a new principal back in 2007, I recall Mrs. Perna being a terrific support to me as I settled into the district. As I read through Mrs. Perna's evaluations from a number of different administrators, there was a common thread, and that was that Mrs. Perna was a dedicated member of each staff. She performed her duties well, and she always connected positively with students. And she was a supportive colleague and was always willing to assist us. Mrs. Perna, as I mentioned, retired earlier this school year. Mary Ann, I know that we miss you all. We miss you very, very much at Sylvan Avenue, and we wish you a long, happy, and healthy retirement. Congratulations. now we're going to move on to Lori Yates. Lori Yates began her career in Bayport Blue Point in 2002. She held the same position at Sylvan Avenue part-time as our greeter for nearly 18 years. In the last 2 years, Mrs. Yates moved to our full-time greeter position. She's the first person that our guests would encounter when they entered Sylvan Avenue. She was always welcoming and helpful to those who visited our building. In her role as teacher aide, Mrs. Yates was most helpful to teachers who appreciated all that she did to ready materials for their students, whether it was tearing math pages from workbooks, setting up student folders, or wrapping holiday gifts for students. Mrs. Yates provided the support that teachers needed. In addition, front office staff appreciated her assistance in making attendance calls, getting forgotten items to students in their classrooms after their parents had dropped them off in the front of the school, preparing flyers to go home, and ensuring that late students would get lunch. Mrs. Yates did a million little things that added up to a person that we could always depend upon for help. Thank you, Lori, for your years of service to the students, faculty, and staff at Sylvan Avenue. We hope you are enjoying your retirement and that it's a long, happy, healthy one. Congratulations. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Dugan. There are two other people on the list who I believe are not here tonight that we will recognize at their buildings. I'd just like to at least acknowledge them. There's Mr. Stephen Marino and Mr. George Edwards, who have worked in our buildings and grounds for a number of years, so we're going to recognize them at the buildings. So we can just give them a round of applause as well. With that, now again, congratulations to all of our retirees. I again want to just thank you for everything. At this time, I'm going to invite Mr. Haas back to the microphone, and we're going to recognize some of our people receiving tenure tonight. So, Mr. Haas.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. It is my honor tonight to recognize Ms. Ann Hanson-Crowley for tenure. Ms. Ann Hanson-Crowley started in 2017 and has worked. I've had the opportunity to work with her in both the middle school and the high school. And to see, she is an ENL teacher, and to see what she is able to accomplish with her students is one of the most remarkable things that I've ever seen within education. She's able to work with students who do not speak any English, and by the end of the school year are conversational and really able to, most importantly, communicate with their peers and really fit into the school. So, but it's her work outside the classroom that I think it truly does go unnoticed. But over the past 15 months, I've had the opportunity to see the work that she does with her students and communicating with their families. She is a true support system for them, goes above and beyond. I congratulate her, and I know she is going to have a great career here at Bayport Blue Point. So, Ann Hanson-Crowley. Yes, you're supposed to come up for a second. Who's next? John?
Thank you, Mr. Haas. I would like to congratulate Ms. Sally Miller on her tenure this evening. Ms. Miller is our district chairperson for world languages in ENL. I have had the opportunity to work closely with her over the course of the last 2 years, and through our shared experiences, I have come to know her as someone who is hardworking, loyal, dedicated, and wants only what's best for her students. I have watched her bring the Spanish and French language and culture alive for her classes. She has been an instrumental piece in helping our ENL program flourish here at Bayport Blue Point. Congratulations, Ms. Miller, on this wonderful achievement. Later.
Hello again. I'm here to congratulate Ellen Blachos. She has absolutely impressed me so much with the way that she has been leading her virtual classroom this year. They are not missing a beat on anything that they're learning. She really took the time to find out these tricks of getting them engaged on the computer, and they absolutely love her. She has been a great welcome to Blue Point Elementary School for our librarian as well, and our gifted and talented students. And although she's getting tenure in special education, and she's not really doing that right now, she still uses those skills to meet the needs of all of her students. So she's extremely helpful in everything that she does, especially with the gifted and talented, collecting data and making sure everyone has their tests done. And we are just very happy to have her at Blue Point Elementary. Congratulations.
Eileen, you said Ms. Tully is not here. You said it. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Probably one of the most important jobs I have is actually recommending people for tenure to the Board of Education, because it means that we'll be spending a long time together. So it is one of those things that, being in a small district, and a district like Bayport Blue Point, I get the opportunity to get into everybody's classes, see everyone, get to know everyone. And I'm not sure every one of my colleagues can say that. So that is one of the best things about this, because then as these people are retiring, I absolutely will miss you, because I got to know each and every one of you, and I wish the best for you. And then for our tenure people who are receiving tenure tonight, I feel very ecstatic that we have the opportunity to kind of offer, or me make the recommendation of tenure, because I know you're going to keep doing what you've been doing, and it's really been looking out for our kids. So I just really would like to thank you for that. I have the opportunity to talk about two people tonight. I'm going to start with Mrs. Velasco. So you understand something, just to give you a little background here, is going through just even the interview process is kind of a show in itself, where they go through a number of rounds of meeting with different people, and at the end of it, you always hope that you select the right candidate. Well, I can absolutely say that with Mrs. Velasco. There's no doubt about it, and there was a lot of people involved in that decision. One of the hardest things probably about coming to a new place is, one, is that you're new. And probably the second challenge that she had right off the bat was that she started when school had already started. I want to say it was November, if I remember correctly. It was November. So now you're kind of moving from one person to the next, and then she's got to acclimate herself to a building. Blue Point Elementary, for all of you who know this, is a true family, and they welcomed her. And she became part of that family very quickly. And it's really because of her personality and her willingness just to get to know people. It is no doubt when she walks through that building that she knows every student. She knows them by name. She knows what's going on with their family. And one of the things you've heard me talk about over this year is of this idea of being that go-to person. And really that is about getting to know somebody, making relationships, building that trust. And she has done that with both her students and staff. And because of that, Blue Point Elementary continues to thrive. From an academic standpoint, she's been a major part in the Teachers College rollout that we've done. And because of that, I've always enjoyed my instructional conversations that we have together in terms of what else can we do to continuously try to offer opportunities for our students. So I really must thank her for that. Part of the other piece is if you follow Ms. Velasco at all or any of her buildings, she is definitely tech savvy, which is interesting because during her interview, she purposely said to us, we give this a presentation to do. And at that time, she said, well, I'm tech savvy, so I'm not going to do anything tech, which I thought was very, very interesting. She just did it from basically to speaking about it, which tells you a little bit about something about her where she's willing to take a risk. And that is something that we found out right away. But if you do follow her, she's very active on Twitter for both, for the building. And you see a lot of that. She had started an initiative a number of years ago, and I'm not going to say it was by accident. She started with this idea of this one word, and then it became energy. And then from the energy took her to the energy bus, and then energy bus kind of grew. And from that, we started our district-wide socially emotional committee, our task force. And then we started the no homework nights. So really, she really was the beginning of a lot of that. So I'd like to thank her for that. She's continuously looking to do things for the students there. So really, I could kind of go on and on, but really I would just like to thank you for everything and congratulate you on receiving tenure. So well done, and we're looking forward to many years. And I have one other tonight. Dr. Fulton. Dr. Fulton, for those who have gotten to know Dr. Fulton, his nickname is Panda. I'll just tell you that. So I know I'm probably putting it out and everyone can hear that. And it's after the Kung Fu Panda. For many of you who don't know it, he is a black belt, which is very interesting. Hence where he got the nickname from. So sorry, Dr. Fulton, I'd share that with you. Again, it's one of those things is Dr. Fulton serves as our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction. And he's always looking to do things for our students and for our staff, whether it be through professional development or whether it be looking at what is the next best thing if there's something out there. And he continues to do that from an educational standpoint. He is truly one of my right-hand men. And that is not an easy place to be, I will tell you. It's one of those things where and he's gotten to know me very well, where on a daily notice, if a thought comes into my head about something or something we can try, I'm like, all right, Ted, what are we going to do about this and how can we make this happen? And he's always there and he's always willing to say to me, all right, how can we make that happen? How can this work? Let me think about it. Ted is also, or Dr. Fulton, I should say, is always one of those ones too. If a situation comes up, he will have a story about it. Ted has been in a number of places, and we often kid him about it, as he'll come up with a story about, when I was in Hewlett, it's kind of like speaking to your grandfather. That's exactly what it's like. But it really adds a lot to the conversation, and I must thank him for that, because he does have tons of experience. And that experience really plays out here. As I said, it's similar to Tara, is to try to get yourself involved within the community. Ted has done that right off the bat. He is one of those ones that... if you know him, he has a large personality, all right? And he's always willing to go the extra mile, and he always puts himself out there, and he likes to be part of the district. He is another one who's very much into that social well-being for both our students and for our staff. He's continuously looking at our curriculum and trying to assess it. He leads our instructional councils. He oversees a lot of our grants. There's just a lot of things that he has to have his hands on a daily basis. And he's always doing it with a smile and willing to try to help out wherever he can. I think the favorite part of his job, and we often talk about this, and Mrs. Van would know what I'm talking about, is every year around the holidays we get involved in a little competition called the Reindeer Day Game. So if any of you are at Academy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's during that time we get to compete a little bit and do some of the things with some of the other staff. I am the reigning champ, even though he won't tell you that, but that is truly a fact. But it's that type of thing where he's willing to do anything. That's really why I bring that up, is because he's willing to kind of do anything, especially if he can put a smile on somebody's face. So really, I just would like to thank Dr. Fulton. I congratulate you on the recommendation of tenure tonight, and I look forward to working with you for many years. So thank you very much.
How about one more big round of applause for all of our tenure candidates and all of our retirees?
All right, so we still do have some, first of all, again, congratulations to everybody. I could not be prouder of you. We do have a couple other individual recognitions that we would like to do tonight. I think this one is going to Ms. Velasco, I believe. I'd like to recognize TJ Smith. Many of you may have heard this, that he is our PTA Unsung Teacher of the Year award that he received through the PTA. It was an outstanding thing. Though we had to go to, the ceremony was virtual, and this is what I was talking about before at Blue Point Elementary, the amount of people that were on that virtual meeting. It was extremely impressive. It was myself and I know 25, 30 others from Blue Point Elementary, so that just tells you what he means to the faculty. So thank you, TJ. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Velasco. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
I could stand here for hours and talk about Mr. Smith, and I'm sure students can as well. And actually, they have. They actually told him that he was nominated for this award at our PTA meeting. The students came on to our Google Meet and talked about him, and it was very sweet. And then when he actually won the Suffolk County PTA Hero Award, they came into his office with balloons and congratulated him, and they were so excited. But this year, Mr. Smith has taken his teaching to a whole new level. And I think what the best part is that because he's going into teachers' classrooms, they're seeing the amazing things that he does. The teachers don't even want to leave and go on their prep because they just want to stay there and do music class with them. He uses his free time at home to research. He'll text me, be like, look at this. I just figured this out. And then shares it with others. And it's just absolutely amazing. He has embraced these chaotic times and really thrived with music on a cart, which is not easy to do, especially when you're not allowed to sing. So he's been finding different ways to engage them. And he also takes the time to do a lot of mindfulness and continue our SEL work at Blue Point Elementary School. My office is right across the hall from the kindergarten classrooms, and I hear them doing the breathing and taking deep breaths and starting each lesson like that, and to find yourself when students are getting distracted. And the best part is every day he says two things. When he leaves for work, he says, best job in the world. But when he leaves the classroom, he says, I love you, miss you already. And it just melts my heart. And just an amazing person, amazing friend, amazing teacher. And we are so excited for him that he won the PTA Suffolk County Unsung Hero Award.
Thank you, Ms. Velasco. We're going to just do a quick audible, real quick, just because it's getting a little bit late, and I want to make sure we keep our students here. So with that, I'm just going to flip, and then I'm going to come back to the other teacher awards. So with that, I'm going to go down to the student calendar artwork. All right, so I'm going to pass that off to Dr. Fulton, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. So the following students, they created artwork that was selected for our district calendar, which is always a great honor. And so we really just want to celebrate the students' creativity and their achievement. So when I call you up, you can come on up and get a certificate. And then after all the students in the lobby, they could take a picture. Everything's okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So first, I'd like to congratulate Dalia Sepulveda. Congratulations. Ava Buckle. Ava. Congratulations. Juliet Reyes. Congratulations. Faith Besser. Congratulations. Sierra Dungate. Congratulations. Lily Hanley. Congratulations. Kristen Sauer. Gabriella Zizima. Kimberly Logan. Lily Deonis. Jesse Dietz. Rafferty Hasher. Congratulations. Juliana Kirby. Xander Capozzi. Congratulations. Oh, there you go. That's fine. Jacob Weinstein. Congratulations. Nicholas Fadolato. And Brandon Spano. So congratulations to everybody and great job. For those students, we are going to take a picture in the lobby if you want to go back and take a picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. Now we'd like to recognize, it's interesting, in one year we've had a Teacher of the Year, and we've also had a Librarian of the Year. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Andruskowitz, who will talk about Ms. Susan Henke-Brinkman. I'd like to congratulate her. I, too, got to sit on her ceremony the other night, and it was very interesting. It was obviously what the group that she works with, the impact that she's had on them was quite impressive. So I just would like to congratulate her, and I'd like to bring up Mr. Andruskowitz.
I would like to congratulate our James Wilson Young Middle School librarian, Mrs. Susan Henke-Brinkman, on winning the Suffolk School Library Media Association Librarian of the Year Award. I'm going to read a little excerpt from her award letter. You are described as a role model, leader, and you dedicate yourself to propelling the library profession. You not only help others, but dedicate your time to learning and becoming involved with different committees, organizations, and workshops in order to grow professionally. Your efforts to create various programs and learning opportunities for your students and colleagues is commendable. Mrs. Henke-Brinkman has worked tirelessly to make the James Wilson Young Middle School Library Media Center a hub of active learning. When the pandemic forced us to convert a good portion of the library into the classroom, Mrs. Henke-Brinkman did not let that deter her. She brought the library and all of its resources out to the staff and students by reinventing the way they can access material. Within the last week, she and another colleague, Mr. Scott McKendrick, pushed into our social studies classes in full Civil War regalia. I'm talking the wool underpants, the wool pants, the wool jacket, everything. She spoke to our students about the life and times of Civil War soldiers. Mrs. Brinkman moonlights in her free time as a Civil War reenactor, and trust me, you have not lived until you've seen her fire that artillery cannon. It is intense. Thank you so much for all you do at James Wilson Young, and congratulations on this prestigious award.
Congratulations again, and thank you, Mr. Andruskowitz. So now we're going to move to the part in the program where we do our scope awards. Each year as a district, we are allowed to nominate a number of various individuals within our community, actually within our learning community, whether it be from the school staff or from the community itself. And typically each year, Scope does this big presentation in April where they do a nice dinner, but unfortunately this year they were unable to do that. I was able to recognize two of the people in their schools, which was very nice, but I do want to give them their due, so I'd like to acknowledge them tonight. And then there was also a community member I'd like to acknowledge as well. Our community member that we had recommended or nominated this year was Miss Roberta Zeller, and she's here. Come on up. So, the plaque says, "In appreciation for your outstanding service to the Bayport Blue Point community." So thank you very much. But I would like to read something because I like to share what we shared with them and actually have a journal for you so it's in there so you'll see it, okay? But I'd like to read it to everyone. George Steinbrenner said, "If you do something good for some person and more than two people know about it, you and the other person, then you didn't do it for the right reason." This statement exemplifies Roberta Zoller, a leader of the BBP Booster Club for years. She has worked tirelessly behind the scenes to provide our athletes and school community with amenities that at a district we couldn't purchase due to budget constraints. Through Roberta's efforts, she had helped secure and donate more than $200,000 worth of equipment and supplies to the BBP district. These enhancements have helped elevate the success of our teams and positively impact thousands of student athletes. I can say with confidence that Roberta Zoller has helped to transform and shape our sports program and in turn has helped BBP athletics shine above the rest. Congratulations and thank you for everything that you are doing. I think we're going to do a picture.
Thank you.
We had two other people that we recommended from the school, and both of these we actually went to their buildings and did this, but I would like to do it again tonight. So I don't have their plaques here because we already gave them to them. So unfortunately, Monica, I don't have another one for you. So the first person I'd like to recognize is Monica Balistrand. We did write something for her, but I will tell you this. In a time when the pandemic hit, Monica has been there more than probably anybody will know. She's taken on a leadership position within and amongst her nurses and really has helped in a lot of the things that we've been trying to do for the past year. So really for that, and there's no way I can really thank you enough, but I just would really like to thank you and acknowledge that. So thank you. So I'm going to talk about Monica, and I'm going to read what was written about her. So with the district's initiative of having a go-to person, Nurse Balistrand is definitely one to many. She is dependable, professional, efficient, and always where we need her. She has worked diligently to support the district through the times of COVID-19, attending workshops, meetings, and doing research on her own time. She's a leader in her nursing cohort, taking on the role of chairperson, being proactive with coverages, and striving for synergy among the group. She respects privacy, communicates appropriately with parents, and makes sure everything is done accurately and in timely manner. Her plate is usually not just full, but overflowing. It's very true. Yet she always checks in to see what else can be done. She is an asset to both the building and district, and we are grateful for her dedication to the BBP community. So, Monica, I'd just like to bring you up here, and again, thank you so much. I'm going to give you another one of these. At least we give you something. And is Miss Trifoletti here? Oh, there she is. All right, so side note for Miss Trifoletti, she's in my Peloton group every Friday morning at 5:30. So, and I will tell you, she is one of the most competitive people that I know. She doesn't go to just go for a stroll in the park. She goes to win. And often she beats Mr. Andruskowitz. So that's a big part of this. So, Ms. Trefoletti, we did give to go to her classroom, but I would like to read this as well. Ms. Trefoletti began her teaching career in BBP in 2009. She has been involved in many capacities, both in the classroom as a mathematics teacher and outside the classroom as a Frost Valley chaperone, and an advisor for the National Junior Honor Society. Our superintendent of schools, that's me, often speaks about our students having a go-to person they can trust and rely on. There was an instance this year where one of our students needed the help of a trusted adult. That student turned to Ms. Trefoletti in her time of greatest need, and Ms. Trefoletti was there to help the student. She's a valued member of the James Wilson Young Middle School staff, and her positive impact is felt both inside and outside the classroom. So come on up here. We'd like to acknowledge you, and congratulations. I think. Okay, so our last part of the acknowledgement night is twice a year we get to acknowledge our Teachers of the Month. I'm going to go in month order, and is Miss Tilden here? Oh, there she is. Good. Okay. So Miss Tilden is our Teacher of the Month for February. So I'd like to read what was written about her. This month's Teacher of the Month is a dedicated teacher that puts her students and their needs first. Her colleagues describe her as an educator that is always eager to learn new academic programs and takes pride in all that she does. In the classroom, she prepares creative and motivating lessons through her calm and caring manner. She builds wonderful connections with her students and their families. It is evident that she loves what she does and wants all of her students to meet with success. For many years, she has spent hours of her own time preparing and collaborating as a co-leader for the building's Peer Leaders program. She is a current member of our district's instructional council. She has also served on the union's exec board. In addition, she has taken on the daunting task of collecting money for the scholarship fund. It is with great pleasure and pride that we recognize the Bayport Blue Point Teacher of the Month for February, Ms. Rebecca Tilden. Come on down. TJ, you're really racking it up tonight. All right. Our Teacher of the Month for March is TJ Smith. So congratulations, TJ. Also the Unsung Teacher of the Year. That sounds pretty good. All right. TJ is a wonderful asset to the Blue Point Elementary School, especially during a year where we all face unique challenges. TJ enters the building each day with a smile on his face and a positive attitude. He often checks in on his colleagues to see how they are doing and continues to do so via email during quarantine. He always takes time to share tips and tricks for incorporating technology. TJ has taken his teaching to the next level. He's embraced the crazy times we are living through and has been able to use technology to his advantage. He continues to create engaging lessons for students of all abilities. In a time where teachers are being challenged, TJ has embraced it as a learning challenge, and his students and colleagues certainly benefit from it. He has continued to incorporate fun music activities without actually being able to sing to ensure that students still have a love for music. Our pleasure to recognize TJ Smith as the March Teacher of the Month. April. Is Miss Malave here? Oh, there she is. Okay. Congratulations to you. The Sylvan Avenue educator is an exceptionally dedicated teacher and colleague. She works tirelessly to help the most challenged learners. She incorporates her love and gift of organization and color coding magic to help her students make sense of the academic material as well as the world around them. The parents of her students are in awe of her the parents of her students are in awe of the progress their children make under her instruction. They are always impressed by her dedication and ability to use her technology expertise to make learning accessible to all. She can be described as a true leader, a true team player who is always willing to help out. She is the resident technology expert, and during the school closure last spring, she was willingly helped out those of less versed in technology. She acted as a true teacher, and rather than doing it for us, she helped us learn how to manage and incorporate the emerging technology for ourselves with patience and grace. As a colleague, you could not ask for someone better. She truly wants to help make your life better, easier, and happier. One of the most endearing qualities she possesses is her humbleness. She's quietly behind the scenes in almost every aspect of the day-to-day function and special events at Sylvan. She's an integral member of our Energy Bus leadership team as both the unofficial DJ as well as creative genius, attempting to incorporate fun in the sometimes serious trainings. As a leader in our SIT committee this year, she's incorporating her love of fitness into the principles of character development. She is the person you most want in your group project because she works hard, has amazing knowledge of technology. She's creative and gets along with others. Please recognize Ms. Malavi as our Teacher of the Month for April. Miss Hicks. Do we have Miss Hicks here? No? All right. Well, I am going to recognize her because I don't know if she's on virtually. So Miss Hicks is our Teacher of the Month for May. She's deserving of this honor and recognition. She is dedicated, hardworking, always helpful, highly knowledgeable, and focused on improving all aspects of education here at BBP. She's a fixture of James Wilson Young, and during her nearly 30 years at the building has become a go-to person for students, colleagues, and administrators alike. She's always there to listen, offer support, or do something to bring a smile to the face of a colleague or a student. She has always been an advocate for what is best for the kids. Over the last 15 months, she demonstrated this by devoting her time to committees for reopening and trying to figure out how to teach in a COVID world so kids can feel successful, good about themselves, and continue to learn. In her classroom, she pushes her students and works endlessly to ensure they are successful as they can be. She seeks out ways to connect with her students on a personal level, and anyone can immediately sense the comfort her students feel with her. The entire middle school math department has been mentored by this teacher, either formally or informally, due to her tireless dedication that all students have the best possible instruction, even if they aren't her own. Her commitment to her students, the staff, and BBP community are not easily matched. This person works tirelessly, advocating for colleagues and students to ensure everyone has the opportunity to do their best every single day. She's the utmost professional and a master teacher. She's highly respected by administration, colleagues, community members, and students. She's been an advisor for the National Junior High Society, math department teacher in charge, instructional council member of school improvement team, a union representative, has volunteered for numerous committees over the years, and has been the BBP TA vice president for the middle school. So with that, I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Hicks for the month of May. And for the month of June is Miss Schuster. Is she? Oh, there she is. Okay. Congratulations. The Bay Park Blue Point High School is very lucky to have June's Teacher of the Month in our building. To start off, her caring and gentle manner can be seen whenever she is working with her students. They not only look to her for guidance academically, but they also seek her out for help socially. In fact, if you walk past her room at the end of the day, often there is a student in an extra help session or just in the room to visit and talk. They know that they can depend on her to help them find success. The respect for her is evident whenever her name comes up in conversation, and they get to share how much they like her and how much they learn from her. These very same sentiments are echoed by her colleagues. She's respected for the expertise she is always willing to share, be it support and guidance when working with students with special needs or strategies and techniques for lessons that can often be just the right tip needed to help a struggling student. or even a struggling teacher. Her professionalism is always accompanied by a smile. Every day this teacher makes the high school a little bit brighter. She's truly a go-to for many in the building. It's with great pleasure that I recognize Joy Schuster as our Teacher of the Month for June.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. And one more time, how about a big congratulations for all our award winners tonight. Before we get into our code of conduct hearing, this would be a time if anyone would like to go home. We thank you so much for coming tonight, and thank you for everything you do for our district. But have a great night. Feel free to stay, but this would be a time if you'd like to leave for the night. We sure appreciate your time. We're being asked for just a quick 2-minute bathroom break. Yes.
Neil, mic is here. You know how to turn it on? Okay, and your clicker. What was that? Yeah, the clicker. Well, I have to get it up first. That's what. Yep, that's all you have.
He was the first. He was the first wrestler. Yeah, like what?
All right, guys, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes to go to the bathroom. We truly do appreciate it. At this time, can we have a motion to leave the business meeting and enter the public hearing? Mr. Siri, second. Mr. Krug, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Just so everyone's aware, anytime there's any changes to the code of conduct, there must be a code of conduct hearing. That's why we're here tonight. We have our assistant principal, Mr. Neil Zarconi, who will be presenting on the new changes proposed to the board tonight. Mr. Zarconi, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, so I'm here to discuss some safety in our schools, Project SAVE legislation. It's under Commissioners of Education Regulation Part 100.2. Under general school requirements, that Board of Ed had a code of conduct plain language version. The purpose of this presentation tonight, planning on being very direct, just review and discuss the requirements for the code of conduct. The code of conduct does define the roles, rights, and responsibilities for all the stakeholders within the district. It discusses things like disciplinary procedures for students, suspension procedures. It talks about approved conduct that we want to see on the school grounds so it's a safe environment. It discusses all the DASA regulations, CPS, all those things are contained within this document. I'm going to talk about the public hearing, which is what we're here for tonight. So it's presented in public. This document was actually posted on the last board agenda, so it is on the district website with some proposed changes thus far. There was one added since then, which I'll talk about. The revision process, I'll go through that with you, and then the proposed amendments to the code. So the revision process, I am the Project SAVE coordinator for the district. So I am the chair of the Project SAVE committee, which is a group of members representing all stakeholders within the school and community. We do look at this document. We've looked at this document over my last 4 meetings. The members look to make some edits. While they're doing that, that group is board approved, by the way, at the annual meeting. I'm working with district council to make sure that we're following all the NYSED amendments to the school regulations. In consulting with Dr. Fulton with regards to any items that we want to add to the code that's consistent with our goals within the district. There's the opportunity for public comment from any and all people in attendance here, and certainly out at the public at large, and then hopefully for board adoption at the reorg meeting. So going right to the proposed amendments, it's a 36-page document. I don't think anyone wants me to read the entire document, but I'll just get right to the edits and they are strike through and they're made in red on the document. Under definitions on page 4, electronic communication. Social media sites and outlets are ever changing. In the past, we've just named a few, but since they're evolving and increasing in number, we added specific language to that. Under discrimination on page 4, we added some language there, so all of the protected classes are now represented. Page 17, your Dignity Act coordinators, or DACs. The schools are required to name them for the public and make their contact information, both email and phone number, available to the public at large. Going to page 18, disciplinary penalties and referrals. This language codifies the district's practice that we have in the area of student violations of the code of conduct and the administrative consequences that are imposed. We didn't have specific language representing our past practice of doing things, so we put the language in. Suspension from school on page 23. We added some remedial consequences and restorative justice practices. It's speaking to consequences that can be either in lieu of or in addition to suspension from classes and activities. On page 24, there is a minimum period of suspension for certain things, one being a firearm. The term weapon was replaced with firearm. The definition is important because the possession of a firearm while on school grounds or at a school-sponsored event, that carries a 180-day school suspension. And that would include all classes and activities. And it's important because incidents such like this, we're required to report it on the SSEC annual reporting that we do. It's the school safety and education and environmental data reporting. CPS, investigations on page 34, the interview of students, the language is now consistent to include all the protected classes as per New York State's human rights law. It includes gender identification and identity, where it previously did not. Page 35 was the most recent change. This actually came about at my last Project Save meeting, which was a day or two after the board had this posted in your agenda. The visitors to schools, we changed the language to spell out the actual physical place in which visitors are screened and be checked into the building. In the past, it said in the principal's office. They don't report there, obviously, with the inclusion of the vestibules in all the districts. They're checking in with the security personnel, so that language represents that. So the opportunity for public comment, school district or board of cooperative educational service can adopt their code of conduct only after at least one public hearing that provides for the participation of school personnel, parents, students, any other interested parties. So, Mr. Miller, I can present again if you want, or, the board can certainly take comments from the public. I would bring them back to council and to my committee, work with Dr. Fulton again. If there's any other amendments, potential amendments that the board would want to take a look at if they come in from the public or from the board itself. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sarconi. We truly appreciate it. Any trustees with any questions on the code of conduct? Any community members with any questions on the code of conduct? Not hearing any. Thank you so much, Mr. Zarconi. We truly appreciate it. I do not believe we need another code of conduct presentation. I'll open up to any trustees if you see it differently.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sarconi. Appreciate it. Moving on to the present. Oh. Sorry, can I have a motion to return to the business meeting? Mr. Seri, second. Mr. Johnson, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We're going to turn it over to Dr. Horny for two quick presentations.
So, thank you, Mr. Miller. So tonight we have two presentations, and I'll kind of set the stage for the first one. The first one, you heard Mr. Snyder and myself talk about throughout the budget process. We talked about grants that were given to us through the federal government that really came from both administrations, meaning President Trump and President Biden. And they were referred to as the American Rescue Plan Act, and then you also had the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplementary Act as well. So those are the two things we're going to talk about tonight. If you remember, when the districts were told about the money, they talked about this is not part of the budget, but it was grants similar to like our Title I, our 619, our 613, those type of grants where there are things that we need to do. We're going to walk you through it a little bit tonight. The one thing about the money that came to us, which totaled somewhere close to about $2.7 million, there are restrictions on it or things that you can use the money for. So things that you see on here tonight are items that that can be used for this. Not every item that you would think about can be used with this money. A couple of things. You need to use some of the money towards learning loss. You need to use some of the money for facilities. Or actually, I should say not necessarily for facilities, but for like one-time type of purchases. If there are items on the list that you're looking to continue afterwards, then you would have to put in your plan, how would you continue to pay for those? Part of this is we were given a very short turnaround. This came back to us sometime, I want to say middle of May by the time we were given the directions. And at that time, we were told that we had a number of weeks to try to do a couple of things. One is we're trying to put a list together of items that we might like to use for this. just know this, it does not lock us into it. It's one of those things that we need to put certain things into what I continue the business portal within the state ed that we have to submit it to. We also have to have a plan that is published to the website. The dates they're using are June 15th, which is next week, and then the week after that. They gave us about a 2 or 3 week turnaround. So in that, you need to try to include as many stakeholders as possible. Hence why we wanted to do this at a board meeting, and that's why I sent the notice out yesterday that this is what we would be doing. We already have had the opportunity to involve as many staff as possible as we're trying to gather ideas. And that's really what tonight is about. It's about ideas. It doesn't necessarily mean that these are the items that are going to be in it, but it's the initial ideas as we looked at some of our condition survey, things we want to do from an academic standpoint. So that's kind of what you're going to see here tonight. There are things that you might say, well, can we do that? It needs to be related to the requirements of the grant. That's why when these things were selected, we tried to look at them in that way. So with that, we're going to kind of walk you through a little bit of it. We tried to put together some of the ideas. I had the opportunity through the PTA Council last night as well to share everything with them as I presented some of this to them as well. So the idea of today is, again, to gather some feedback. If anybody has any other ideas of things that would fall within the realm of this, it's definitely something we can. The list of items we put in here, I can tell you right now, because we have not had the time to price them all out yet, and Dr. Fulton and Mr. Snyder will talk about that. It's probably already more than $2.7 million. It probably already is. So then what will happen is we need to gather all the quotes that we can, because then that information needs to be kind of put together, because obviously we can't spend more than the money. It's also over a 2 or 3 year period. So again, it is a fluid document. So it needs to, we can continuously change it as we're going, just like with any of our grants, but we do need to have something that we can submit. So this was kind of our starting point. We want to get as much feedback as possible. So hopefully that kind of gives you some of the background knowledge to this as you're listening to Dr. Fulton and Mr. Snyder. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Good evening. We'll disclose the actual financial awards for both the American Recovery Plan and CARISA. Go through some of the rules and requirements that we know of related to both of these two federal grants, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Fulton, and he'll discuss some of the programs that are under consideration for inclusion in the grant application. So kind of trying to summarize the whole thing in one slide. ARP and CARISA are federal grants. They're one-shot revenue sources from the federal government. This has really nothing to do with the voter-approved budget that was discussed here at length during the spring. Monies were allocated to all districts in the state based on Title I data, which uses free and reduced and poverty and a whole bunch of other things. Combined wealth ratios for the district, which measures income and property wealth in the communities. They also use spending per pupil, free and reduced lunch applications, and they readily admit that the money was allocated based on the political agendas of the legislature. BBP received a total of just under $2.7 million for both of these grants. $785,000 was in the American Recovery Plan, and just under $1.9 million was the Coronavirus Recovery Rescue Stimulus CARISA. We'll call it CARISA, okay? The ARP must be spent over 3 years. They originally had it as 3 years and 3 months, but recently clipped those 3 months off of the grant. We believe they're going to do the same thing for CARISA, but as of right now, it's 2 years and 3 months. Regulations do permit for expenses in 2021 to be charged against the grants, but for the accountants in the room, they haven't given us any guidance in terms of how you actually do that. So it could be interesting, and right now we're not really planning to take any expenses from 2021 and charge them in the grants. Spending rules are fairly broad. It must address learning loss at a minimum, and there's some requirements there that we'll go through, and learning loss is defined in the regs. And then in general, health and safety matters, which would include buildings and ground type of things, nursing, PPE. Those are generally what you're allowed to do under the grant. So just looking at the ARP grant, again, it's $785,000, and one of the rules is we must spend 20% or $157,000 on what is classified as learning loss.
Again, the grant lasts 3 years and has minimum spending per year of 12.5 and then 8.75 the remaining 2 years. So you see that's a 50% minimum spending levels over 3 years. The remaining balance of the 50% can be spent in any year the district sees fit. So we have some flexibility with that balance of the 50%. But either way, all checks must be cut, and they've emphasized this, by June 30th of 24. You will not be allowed to carry over or extend the grant beyond June 30th of 24. Carissa is a lot easier. Right now it lasts over 2 years. It's the bigger of the two, so that's, I guess, sort of the good news, just under 1.9 million. There's no minimum spending levels. You know, you could spend it in 1 year or you can spend it over 2, and it's just much more flexible. I put together just kind of a sample budget just to show you that, you know, here you see the ARP number of 785. That'll last over 3 years because we have the minimum spending rules associated with it. So you should expect for that grant to last 3 years. The Carissa at the bottom, which is 1.8 million, we could spend that all next year or spread it out over 2 years in any manner, you know, that the superintendent and the rest of the team, you know, deem necessary. And again, there's 2.6 million you can see right there at the bottom for us to spend. Kind of turning it over to Dr. Fulton, he'll talk to you about the overall process we've followed to date and some of the challenges going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. So again, this has not been an easy process as with the notification and the deadlines that we've been provided. So the fact that we have a deadline upcoming is that we really needed to get moving and get feedback as quickly as possible. So we have submissions that are due. We have to try to do our best to get cost projections and allocations. And that first submission is due June 15th for the Carissa. ARP, that submission date still TBD, but we're anticipating it to be shortly thereafter. We've been trying to solicit feedback from stakeholders, from all different employee groups, and also with regards to stake members and community members. Our administrative council also met to review ideas and suggestions, and then this is what you consider a plain language presentation of the process and what we're looking to do. And then lastly, opportunity for comment. So one of the proposed ideas we have, and again, as Dr. Horney mentioned in the beginning, these are proposed ideas that we're kicking around. Be able to is that to finish the district-wide replacements and installation of the classroom smartboards. This is something that has been ongoing with the technology department and Ms. Kiefer, and we'll be able to utilize the funds to be able to complete that. We also want to provide a mobile smartboard for each building to allow for greater flexibility in use in instructional space. And we would look to update and possibly expand the Wi-Fi capability at Sylvan. If anyone's been in Sylvan, we realize that the way the building is configured, that there is difficulty with bandwidth and Wi-Fi access at times in certain parts of the building. We have a number of ideas for instructional initiatives and to be able to improve instruction and also to address the potential of learning gaps or learning loss due to the pandemic. We would like to expand a summer program to include our incoming kindergarten students and readiness, so that way when school opens in September, they'll be in a better position to succeed. And we do want to increase our summer AIS support program, reading and math. This is traditionally a program that when we've operated, it's that students that are identified at a certain level, 2 grades or below with regards to readings and math, they'd be invited to attend the program. And we'd like to expand that to increase for students that have shown a grade below or even less. So we really want to expand to take a look and try to get as many students as possible for reading and math. We would like to add 2 additional elementary sections to reduce class size as we go into next year. We do anticipate that there will be a continued need for some degree of social distancing, not necessarily the 6 feet that we opened this school year with. So we'd actually like to be able to keep class size below 20 per class, K through 5. And through our basic projections that with adding 2 additional sections, we'd be able to do that and district-wide, all 3 elementary buildings class size of 20 or below K5. We'd also like to establish a secondary level middle school and high school academic support program before and after school to be made available for students, and introduce a tutorial support program during school. So we want to try to capture as many opportunities for students and with regards to skill development, homework assistance, to really give the students the opportunity to be successful. We'd like to introduce a K through 12 after-school wellness program or wellness club, really focusing on student social emotional well-being, and to try to increase our ability to teach students the skills and techniques that they could use to be able to self-manage and to be able to provide a positive social emotional experience in school. We'd look to create a .5 elementary school guidance counselor position. With having a guidance counselor, again, will provide additional support with SEL and also allow us to be able to address some vocational and career guided program on the elementary. We'd also like to add an elementary school social worker. I would be able to, again, strengthen our ability to provide students and families the support that students need successful as we continue to address with the after effect of the pandemic. We'd like to create a teacher on special assignment position to support our elementary special education program. It's called the TOSA. Be able to provide professional development and support within our special education department. And we would like to implement research-based attendance intervention. If you remember under ESSA, and I've done presentations on ESSA before, basically they have a specific number with regard to number of absences, whether they're excused or unexcused, where they consider a child to be truant. So we really would like to take the opportunity. Research shows definitively that students are in school, that they are successful. So we want to be able to have research-based attendance interventions in addition to the interventions that we already provide with our support staff. We also have a number of ideas for facilities and physical plant initiatives. So remember, obviously this is pandemic COVID-related money. So you're going to see a common pattern with regards to HVAC and ventilation as we go through some of these ideas. We do obviously district-wide PPE-related purchases and protective gear for staff. We would like to look at the creation of some outdoor learning spaces, K through 8, so that way a number of other districts on Long Island create opportunities outside where students can be able to explore and examine and learn outside of a traditional classroom setting. We do want to redesign and update our school's elementary isolation rooms and also in the high school. This is in the event that a student does come to school and begins to exhibit symptoms of COVID. We still need to be able to provide that isolation room after school starts. We'd like to redesign and update the building faculty room space too as well. Sylvan Avenue, burner replacement for the heating, middle school kitchen, hot water heater replacement. This deals with the ability, obviously, heat in Sylvan, and for the kitchen, proper hot water maintenance for our lunch and food service program. Our high school boiler replacement. Sylvan Avenue has a number of sinks that we'd like to replace, which again, because we're constantly encouraging hygiene and hand washing. We want to update district-wide dampener controls. These are the controls that actually control the fresh air intake, and then having the dampener controls district-wide computerized allows us greater ability to actually target and specify different areas within the system with regards to allowing that fresh air in. MERV filters is actually MERV for how much pressure and how much air is allowed in the fresh air intake. And if you don't update the MERV filters at a certain level, they could actually lead to burning out your actual units that are taking the air in. So it's important that we update those as well. And ductwork cleaning and sterilization for existing systems. We're looking for the middle school auditorium to update and install air handler and a condenser, so that way the auditorium has enough air with regard to the HVAC system, and a district-wide repair and replacement of classroom univents. This is something that's been ongoing district-wide, and we'd be looking to expand that initiative. Normally what happens when you have to repair univents is you target the ones that are in need of most urgent repair, and we're hoping to utilize this money to be able to take care and continue to proceed with the univents. HVAC splits for Sylvan Avenue and high school server rooms. This would allow for greater efficiency of air conditioning for the server rooms, which maintains our computer equipment that actually runs our infrastructure and for technology. So it's important to protect that with the server rooms. And again, installation of air handlers for Blue Point Elementary, Sylvan Avenue cafeterias. District office, again, updated and improved air handlers means you have cleaner air and better ventilated spaces. We look to continue Blue Point Elementary window replacement and also a heating upgrade from the BMS system, building management system. These are the system that, based on technology, we can actually specify and target temperature and temperature controls throughout the building. And this is something that's in need of upgrade, which would allow us greater efficiency to be able to manage and control temperature through computer and through remote access as compared to actually going to specific units. So, Anthony, I hope I did a good job with you teaching me, so thank you very much. I'm not a handy person, so that was something that I needed to take a look and to take some time with. So our next steps, and this is where the challenge comes in, we have to obtain price quotes and estimates for these projects related to the physical plant, HVAC, ventilation. And remember, we have that tight deadline that we were talking about. So traditionally when you do Title I, Title II grants and ESSA grants, you just can't put something broad. You need specificity if you're going to purchase something, quantity, type, etc. We need to conduct a cost analysis for the academic support programs and related staffing. We're going to continue to solicit feedback from stakeholder groups, and we need to submit the plans as per the regulations and requirements. Some of these things might need purchasing of equipment from either a state contract, might need a bid process, RFP process. We do believe most of the equipment discussed would be available off of state-approved contracts. Then we need to design and implement the academic support programs, especially for us talking, for example, the incoming kindergarten students with regards to AIS and AIS access for the K through 5 students. Those are things that we would have to start right away to be able to notify parents. We'd also have to post the instructional positions and actually hire the staff, whether it's for the summer programs or if it would be for the guidance counselor, social worker for next year and the before and after school tutorial programs. And then we have to create a timeline and begin projects related to the physical plant, HVAC, and ventilation, because all these projects can't occur at one time, and we'd have to be able to do these projects while minimizing any potential disruption to the academic instruction within each building. So we do have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but as always, where everyone is working together, really trying to be a collaborative effort, and we're excited about some of the things that might come from this federal grant money. With that being said, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Fulton, Mr. Snyder, and Dr. Harney. Any questions from Ms. Byrne?
Thank you, Dr. Fulton.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, and like I said, when it comes to certain things, increased flexibility, like before and after school, like the high school, the middle school traditionally has an after school homework club, but we'd be looking to expand upon different than what we already have. The other things we'll utilize existing data, like we talked about the elementary program and expanded AIS services for the summer. We have our benchmarking, we have our Fontes and Pinnell, our iReady diagnostic. We're going to be implementing a new math assessment this year. And we have teachers' evaluation of student work through the year. So we're very confident that we're going to be able to identify the students that would benefit from these types of opportunities.
Oh, sorry. Can you give me an idea in general about our kids? I mean, we always have kids that benefit from AIS and extra help, and this was such a crazy year, so I know tests haven't really happened yet, but just from the teachers in the classrooms and kids are there every day, so how are we doing?
Well, we're going to, obviously, the students right now, K-5, are in a process of actually taking their spring iReady diagnostic. And then what we are going to be able to do is take a look at those results and compare them to years prior, from cohort averages with regards to number of students, with regards to grade level, and with our benchmarking. So we're going to be able to see the students and exactly where they are. Again, we have reading level, Fontaines Pinnell for each student too as well. We have our new local math assessment based off the math program. So we're really going to be able to take a look and see exactly who is where we believe they should be and who could be able to provide that support. As compared to a comparison from pre-COVID year as compared to now, still a little too early because right now the students are completing some of those diagnostics, the final diagnostics for the year.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, I just have one kid, so it's hard to know, but what's the teaching that's gone on throughout this has been pretty incredible.
It's been absolutely amazing, being in the classrooms and combined also, seeing what the teachers have done every day in a different instructional environment and working with the students. Again, very proud to be the assistant superintendent for the fine group of teachers that we have.
Thanks. I just had one other question about the attendance, because you said it's a research-based program that you think is going to be good for attendance.
Well, we didn't specify a specific program. It's an idea to look at and see what research-based interventions are out there. I know approximately two years ago I had introduced a potential of a program, but really what it's looking at is the idea is to take a look and see what research-based interventions are out there, and we have not identified a specific program, but we're going to go back and take a look and see what is available.
Mm-hmm. And has our attendance been impacted by COVID a lot? Either do we have less kids missing or more kids missing?
It's interesting. We'll have to do a end of the year, but one of the things I would say is, minus us where we've had to quarantine and stuff, actually the attendance has been fairly good. And one of the reasons we wanted to, again, try to get the kids back, if you remember when we made that move in February to have those learning centers, the idea was so that we can get the students back in so we could have conversations if students were struggling. I know everyone was faced with very different situations at home, so that was always a concern of ours with attendance, because someone could turn on a computer. I know Mr. Honey wouldn't do this and then would do something else, but that's one of the things we were continuously monitoring. So within the guidelines, they talked about anything that we're looking to do, they continuously talk about evidence-based. How is it evidence-based? So they mentioned the attendance, so that was why we throw in an idea of something like that. So that's where that came from, just so you know.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Byrne. Any other trustee questions? Mr. Borowski?
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. Just a couple questions related to the presentation. The ARP grant with the minimum of 20% towards learning loss, do we have the ability to adjust that to something higher than that 20% minimum if the test results come back and there's a clear need for supplemental help?
Yeah, it's a minimum. It's a minimum you have to use at least 20%.
But there's no cap on that.
There is no cap.
There's no cap on it. It's just a minimum of 20% for learning loss.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then related to the facilities initiatives, obviously it's a pretty extensive list. I know that our interim facilities director has kind of been putting together a wish list of in kind of a status report of things to be replaced. How much of that is covered within this list?
Oh, when this list was put together, it came from a couple of places. It came from the condition survey. Okay. If you remember, at one point we had talked about probably some of these items were in the bond when it was originally done. How many years ago that was now? Probably 8 or 9 years ago when they first did the scope of the bond. So you have some of that. We also worked with Mr. Piero and Mr. Martino a lot in terms of looking at the projects that were ones that we've talked about and trying to prioritize them. So even within this list, we have some of them prioritized by building, like, hey, which is number 1, 2, and 3. And a number of these items, and I don't know specifically because we're going to share this back with the Project Save Committee, also some of these are items that they've been talking about as well. So we've been trying to get as much of that that we've been talking about within this as we could. We figured it, again, they're one-shot deals, so maybe we can, make some progress on that.
Great. And last question, looking at the list here, some of the items that are listed, like the building management system upgrades, some of the UNIVent stuff, and actually the boiler replacement. I know that we had previously talked about including some of those in the energy performance contract. Is this kind of a way to allocate this one-shot revenue to those projects and thus kind of reduce the EPC bond amount and therefore kind of speed up our payback period?
The boiler in the EPC that's scheduled for replacement is at Academy Street.
Okay.
So that's the one boiler that's in there. These are boilers above and beyond Academy Street that have required replacement. And as you know, the Sylvan boiler just went down last month. So there was, there's quite a bit of scope there for boiler replacement. So these were boilers that we couldn't fit into the EPC because of the financial restrictions that we were under.
I guess my question is there any merit in looking at trying to move any of the items for the EPC to this in order to reduce the bond amount and kind of decrease our payback period?
So you're saying to take scope from the EPC and move it into these one-shots the other way around?
That's correct. So
Yeah.
instead of rolling it into a bond, which, our payback period would be whatever it was, 15 years.
Yeah.
If we were able to move some of those projects out of the bond into this one-shot revenue and pay for them that way, would we be able to reduce our payback period to 13 years, for instance?
It's a good question. I just don't know if in the process of where the EPC is, which is with BBS getting ready to submit, again, we thought it would be days, but now it's turning into weeks, but they've got it all packaged up and ready to go. I don't know what additional work in there could be pulled and then additional work put back into the EPC because we have to meet that target of 10,240,000. So we'd be swapping scope. So I'd want to think about that. It might be something from a financing standpoint that might be able to help us. It's a good question.
Yeah,
but I think we might be a little, just the way the circumstances are, a little late on that one.
Yeah, but in the end of it, the answer to the question is we'd still have to do the 10, but the money's the money, I guess, is the thing. It just is what are you playing with EPC or the grant money? So I think in the end, you're at the same spot. Yeah.
Agreed.
And obviously, we're trying to balance academic and physical plant needs, which, the needle we're trying to thread.
Mr. Johnson?
Quick questions. Is it, great job, guys. Is any of this state aided? Like if we're going to do capital projects, normally if we use our own money, if we bond, it's state aided 68%, 58%. Is any of this because it's federal money? Would it be state aided? Mean we
No.
get twice the amount?
You would then be getting more than 100% on the expenditure, so you're not allowed to do that.
So I think that answers your question. You don't want to pull anything out of that bond because then we're losing the state aid on it.
The question that Mr. Borowski asked makes me think, is there something in the EPC that has a longer payback that I could pull
but I'm
out?
saying it wouldn't make any sense to pull
Put
it out.
something with a shorter payback in, and now I have more room in the EPC to do additional work. I mean, that, to me, is a very good question. I'd have to look at the scope again and see if it's too late to swap it, but like the windows at Blue Point's cafeteria, very long payback. So I wonder if I could swap them out and put something in with a shorter payback and buy myself some more scope in the EPC for the district.
But I also wouldn't want to touch the EPC because we're getting state aid on that.
Yeah,
so.
but to your question, whatever we pay for using ARP and Carissa, we can't claim for state aid. It'll all be in the federal grant fund anyway, so they're not going to aid it.
With regard to the capital projects are great because they're one-time hits. We're improving our facility. It's something that we don't have to bond for later. It's something that we don't have to use reserve funds for to fix or current funds. So those are great. With the programs, I think it's wonderful that we can increase our programs, especially getting outside revenue. problem is in 3 years or whatever the buyback times, what happens to these programs? We're adding 2 new teachers. We're adding some guidance counsel. We're adding some great programs, but I think we all agree that once you build it, there's really no getting rid of it, and I don't know how we can sustain that cost every year. I'm just wondering what the plan is with that, because I'd hate to tell a parent 3 years from now, sorry, or a teacher that we hired, sorry, but so I'm just worried about where we're going with that money and the ramifications 2 or 3 years from now.
So that is definitely part of the consideration, because actually within the plan, if you were to use money in your budget 3 years from now, it has to be explained in the plan. So for example, the 2 teachers we're talking about, it is truly COVID related, and they would be under a different, and people would, just for example, this past year, we hired a number of teachers on a 1 year because we needed to provide the virtual model, if you recall. So we created a model where we hired teachers, and it was really on a 1 year contract. The same would be done with this, okay? Because the ultimate goal would be is when we're out of COVID, we return to normal class sizes, which is 22, 23, depending on the age or whatever it is. Right now, because we're still trying to maximize as much space as we can, we're trying to keep all the, especially elementaries, 20 and below. Not knowing what the guidelines are going to be come September. So that's kind of our look. So we've actually thought about that. The guidance position we've actually thought about as well, because we have a couple of things that might be happening in a couple of years that once I know more, maybe at some time I can talk about. The one that's the most interesting is the social worker. That is something we have talked about. That is not something that we have a plan yet for. That is something if we were to do, we'd have to come up with a plan. That's why when we list these are really the ideas. A lot of the AIS things that Dr. Fulton was talking about, it really is to address if there was, because it's supposed to be about learning loss due to COVID. So that's how we would have to go about this and present it as we're looking to do it. So we've actually have thought about all that, and we will have to put some of that into our plan when we present it or send it forward. Correct. So as you're kind of moving away, the hardest part is going to be as you see some of this is, I'll be honest with you, and rightfully so. There are a lot of people. It's been a long year. People are tired, So even as we're talking about the summer, it might not be this summer. Okay, it might be next summer. Though we do think that we might be able to do some of the pre-K stuff, because we did have some other people interested in our summer program that maybe they'd be interested in doing the pre-K piece. But it may be a little time, because I'm going to be honest with you, and from a social well-being, people need to step away a little bit, because it's been a very long 15 or 16 months. So we're taking that into consideration as well. What's interesting with that is Mr. Snyder and I had talked about that. Obviously, because of the time of the year, is when we haven't had a meeting in a number of weeks because of the vote. The only problem is we were table that, because we actually discussed that, because we knew we had the recognitions tonight, and we knew we had to do this because of our timeline. You have the same thing with the timeline by the reserves. If we did it the 22nd and you had questions for us and we had to make changes, we have no other meeting before June 30th. So that's why we wanted it on tonight, so that if you gave us anything, we would have time to bring it back to you the 22nd and be still set for the 30th. I didn't want to have to add a third meeting. So that was really the rationale. So okay.
Thank you, Dr. Horney. Ms. Byrne?
Sorry to just extend this with another question, but we do have a new outdoor learning center going in at our new library, and we also have been, I think we purchased small buses recently, and I don't know if we need more, and if that would be something that could come under this umbrella. That's just an idea, since this is sort of brainstorming.
So a couple of things. So when we're talking about an outdoor learning place, we're talking somewhat basic. I'll be honest with you, I'm talking about where we can bring the students out, whether it be tables, desks, benches, whatever it may be. It won't be anything really with at least I'm saying this now, really with covering, because once you do that, you have to go through state ed, you got it through COs, so we're really looking more of creating a space where if somebody wanted to take their students out, there was a place for them to go, almost like in the, long time ago when students were outside, that type of thing.
Blue Point has one, right?
Yes. Something similar to that type of thing, just where we can go. So the one place we were talking about is if we could do something with the courtyard at the middle school to make that somewhat have their learning space, or do something with that. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So I don't want people to think if we're going to build a building or something like that. That's not what we're talking about, because one, we wouldn't be able to use this money. I mean, we could use the money for it, but we wouldn't have enough money for it, I should say. So that's what we're looking at. Okay.
Mr. Siri?
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Dr. Fulton for the presentation. Going to the proposed ideas for instructional initiatives, I know the .5 elementary school guidance counselor and the social worker. Is there any more, or has there been any more talk about increasing the social emotional, re-entering to a normal or semi-normal school year? And I mean, everybody is very concerned with measuring and seeing how they're doing, but most students, the last thing they want to do when they finally come back is, all right, let's see how much you lost, or let's throw you in an AIS program, which can sometimes be a little stigmatizing. Is there any discussion of like a temporary AIS, like you show, like this is your target. Once you hit it, you can be out of this class? I know that's kind of a scheduling nightmare, but I know a lot of teachers, you throw an AIS program their way, most of the time, many of those don't have any type of curriculum. It's just work on skills. And it can sometimes have the tendency to become a study hall because you just throw up your hands after a while. And that's question one, so I don't know. I have just a couple.
So the answer is we would probably use it similar to how we've done our other AISs. And actually, in terms of our AIS teachers, they work very closely with our with the classroom teachers. So they do have a curriculum and everything that they're following, and you said skills that they'll be working on. I would hope that it would be, just as we do everything, we could put it through our EST, educational support teams. The goal really is to get students in and out so that we can use that opportunity for other students if it comes. So that is our normal goal. So that would be consistent with what we would do with this.
So it's not, so it's not like you're in English, just for example, English 9 lab, you're in lab for the rest of your high school career.
No, not at all. I mean, as you said, you might have to do something where it's based on the quarter marks or a half year mark, okay, because that's when you fill it, as opposed to putting someone into then a study hall because that's all that's there.
Or an elective or something.
Correct. So then you could do something like that.
Also, and I know for teachers and for the entire faculty and staff, it's been a long year. Is there any, some type of team building or a regrouping proposal where, teachers who have felt like they've done everything and now it's just like, oop, back to normal. Is there anything proposed where, they can get a little more camaraderie built, a little more, feeling of normalcy for them too?
Yeah, that is an absolute conversation point, especially in the last couple of weeks. And we've been having it with different leadership groups. As you know, that I meet with kind of a group almost every week or 2 weeks, and this is one of our hot topics right now. Even us talking about how do we want to kick off the year, and kind of bringing people together and kind of say, okay, let's go. And we keep talking more about, and a word was shared with me, and I'll use it here tonight, is, everyone's well-being, right? How's everybody doing? So that type of thing. So we haven't come up with our pinpoint ideas yet, but it is absolutely a conversational point, and we're going to try to involve as many people as possible, and we're doing that. So, yes. So the answer is yes. We want to do that as we're going forward.
Thank you so much.
And we want to do it for both, both for students, for faculty, and for families as well. So that's really kind of the approach, so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, trustees. I would just say, I guess we're looking into quotes, we're looking into the initiatives, and the board will get an update in the near future.
Correct.
Thank you, Dr. Harney, Mr. Snyder, and Dr. Fulton. We truly appreciate it. And the last one, just a fund balance and reserve presentation. Mr. Snyder?
Yeah, so we'll kind of try to take you through this quickly. And again, we apologize, but it's really, these had to get done tonight. So we'll go. Mr. Snyder, it's all yours.
So we'll go through all of the district's fund balance and reserve accounts real quick, and again give you the overview of the rules and regulations. You've seen this presentation several times in my time here, and it's been reported to you. So it's an annual update, which we're required to do. And there is one reserve fund that I'm proposing an adjustment to the rationale in order to get prepared for what could happen as we close the 2021 budget. So here's an overview. All of your reserve accounts are right there on the left. Your reserve for ERS, for TRS, workers' comp. We have a reserve for unemployment, employee benefit. You have your appropriated and your unappropriated fund balance. And again, the board has seen this, but for the sake of the people here, back in 2012, your total fund balance and reserves equaled 20.4% of your voter-approved budget. Again, that's a financial metric that the Comptroller's Office and Wall Street uses to gauge the fiscal strength of all school districts. And 20.4 was hovering right around the average back then. Then after a couple of bad years where we were spending more than we had, it was the GEA and really the negative impact of tax cap and all that, you dropped down to 14.2. Now, audited for 1920, you're at 18.4, which is a pretty significant comeback. And in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing right now, projected, which is the last column to the right, at a minimum, you'll creep up to 18.5%. But there is a possibility, and again, I remind you of what you've seen in my reports. There's quite a few BOCES bills that don't come in until August. The TRS, which is a multi-million-dollar bill, doesn't come in until August. So there are a couple of big things still looming out there. But what I will tell you is that if they break in the way I think, we could approach 19%, which would put you within $1 million of where you were in 2012, which I wouldn't have told you a couple of years ago was even possible. So I think the fiscal strength of the district over the past 4 years has been something that has certainly, I know, got me smiling. It's just good to have this fiscal strength as we likely prepare for some state aid shortages in the future, because I don't think what the state is proposing with foundation aid is really sustainable, but that's just opinion. So the one reserve we're going to look at is the ERS reserve. As you know, this reserve, you're limited to what you spend every year in terms of what you can use it for. Right now you have $931,000 in spending, so that's what you're restricted to. The reserve is currently funded at 67%, but I anticipate you will be at 100% based on the 2021 operating level. And my recommendation is, just in case some of those bills I just spoke to you about break our way, to increase the funding ratio to 5.0. So it's something I'd ask for you to consider and either yay or nay at the conclusion. The TRS reserve, this is a fairly new reserve to us. The total amount of expense that we have right now is $2.7 million. It's projected to go to 3.1. As you saw by the previous slide, we only have a couple of $100,000, so this reserve is only at 10%. There's a lot of room to grow here, but you're restricted in terms of what you can put in the reserve to 2% every year. So it's going to take a while for us to build this reserve up to 100%, provided you have the surplus to begin with to put it in there. Workers' comp has not changed. It's based on an actuarial study of what the accountants believe our long-term workers' comp exposure will be. That is fully funded. Unemployment, this was a really bad year for unemployment, and they don't really think that next year will be much better. Your funding ratio is 4 times the expense, or $175,000, whichever is greater. So that will stay the same, and we're looking to fund that again at the higher of the two. Your reserve for employee benefit accrued liabilities, again, the reserve that you use to pay out compensatory expenses under your collective bargaining agreements. The long-term liability that we determined at 1920 was $3.8 million. Right now, the reserve is funded at 80% of that. I do not think we'll get to 100%. I believe maybe 80 maybe 84% might be where we'll land at the close of business, which is a nice increase, but it might take some time for us to be fully funded in this reserve. Your reserve for repairs was newly established by the board, I believe earlier this school year, if my memory is still working correctly. Voter approval is required to fund this, so it's on our books, but it does not have a balance. The unappropriated fund balance is the 4% account. You are, because of COVID and at the recommendation of auditors, we're at 6.5. We have to lower that down to 4%, and that's where some of that extra funding is going to come from a bookkeeping standpoint as we lower the 6.5 to 4. So we'll move that down to 4%. And then again, we have this appropriated fund balance account, which certainly gets a certain amount of attention during audits. Right now, we have $1.6 million built into the expenditure budget, and then $1.6 million built into the revenue budget, so it's a zero impact. We do that strictly to help us guard against overspending, maintain good credit rating, and fund unanticipated expenditures like a Sylvan Avenue boiler type of failure. And again, I remind you that because we're still under a controller's audit, they've taken a different position on this. But I believe we've kind of explained our budgeting practice that it really is a zero impact. We'll have to see what they say when the report comes out. Questions about that, and then any questions specifically about the recommendation to move the ERS to 5.0?
Any questions from trustees? Mr. Brodsky?
So not about the 5.0 recommendation, but related to the repair reserve and funding. And this may be a question for either Dr. Herney or possibly Mr. McCarthy, I think. Obviously, we just had an election, so we missed the opportunity to put on the ballot a measure to fund the repair reserve this go around. And, we've got projected roughly, a 400,000 surplus that we're putting in other reserves. So is next go around, next election cycle, obviously there's no guarantee that we're going to have a surplus again, but is there a way that we can put a ballot measure out there that is worded in such a way that if funds are available or if a surplus is available, we can dedicate 100,000 of that or whatever value we decide as a board to the repair reserve. And the reason I ask that is obviously, we established it because it's an important reserve to fund. And as we're seeing with just even some of the agenda items today related to repairs, I prefer to have money kind of set aside for that as opposed to taking it out of our general fund. So I'm not sure if that's a possibility to phrase it that way or not.
I'm going to give that to Mr. McCarthy. I do agree that we need to get some funds into that reserve. You want to grab?
Yeah, I think we would have to look into that, Mr. Borowski, and get back to you. Our firm could work with you on the wording of any type of proposition, but that's something that would require probably a little bit more research on our end, and we could get back to the board with a final answer on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Any other trustee questions?
Sorry,
Mr. Johnson?
Can you just go back to what we putting into that ERS again? What was your recommendation? How much? 5 times?
5 times the expense, which is currently projected to go to about $1 million.
So how much we talking? We're going up to about 70,000 to 80,000.
We would be
Extra?
going to, well, let's look here. The ERS reserve is currently at 2.8 million audited for 1920.
Okay.
I'm projecting without authorization to let it go to 3.7, but I'm asking for room to go to 5 times that just in case the surplus breaks much bigger than we expected.
So how much are we talking that you're looking to slide?
Well, if the expense is projected to go to 1 million, then it would be you'd be authorizing 5 million on that one line.
Wow, so you're looking to go from 2.8 to 5 million?
I'm not looking to do it. I just want to be prepared in case something happens with BOCES expenditures, with TRS. I need room to be able to move because the 3.7 is fairly close to 4 times the expense.
Isn't some of that related to the 6.57 to go to the 4? Because we have the money in the other, remember, in the appropriate fund balance right
Look
now,
at
which
the
is over the 4.
appropriated fund
So that
balance
is
at
already
4
current money we have, so it's some
Yeah,
of
we're
that
drawing
money.
down, yeah, I got it. We're drawing down from 6.57 to 4.0.
Correct.
We should be.
We're
Correct.
drawing
We
down
have
the
to. We have to by the end of this year.
4.9 million represents 6.57%. We have to draw it back down to around 3 million to get it to the 4 million. So that's another part of the issue, correct?
And that was one of the things when we did it, 8, 9 months ago, we knew we had to get that money back down
Yep.
this year.
No, we discussed it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other trustee questions? Thank you so much. Dr. Harney, if you could just give us a quick update on COVID-19 and the press conference from yesterday, please. We would appreciate it. Oh, yeah. Mr. Harney, I know you've been waiting a long time. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it. If we can do your update real quick.
Yep, so just a couple things I have tonight is as we approach the end of the school year, there's a lot of activities a lot of activities organized for our seniors and all students to wrap up the end of this school year that's been very different than many others in the past. For example, last night the Booster Club held a senior athletic award dinner attended by a majority of the high school senior student athletes. All 3 high school music concerts went very well. It was a great showcase. I think everyone agrees of all the efforts put in by students and teachers throughout this past school year. This coming Thursday, there's going to be a scholarship ceremony held on the front lawn for all scholarship recipients this year. As the elementary school principals were saying, field day at the elementary schools have been held the past couple of weeks or will be held shortly. And with that, the graduating seniors this year will have the opportunity to return to their elementary schools next Thursday to see where their learning at BBP began. For many students, including myself, I haven't been really in my elementary school more than once or twice since 5th grade. So that'll be a really nice thing to do. I think we started a couple years ago called like Operation Graduation or something. So we'll go back in our cap and gowns and get to socialize with the elementary schoolers there. Prom and graduation are being held Monday, June 21st and Friday, June 25th. There's a lot of excitement around that, as well as the last day of classes for all underclassmen and middle schoolers and elementary schoolers. And then the last thing I have is best of luck to our spring sports teams as the season is wrapping up and we have a couple teams going into postseason and playoffs, so best of luck to them too. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Any questions from trustees? Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate everything you've done this year. Next year we have a little gift for you because we want to thank you. We want to wish you the best of luck in college. So thank you so much for everything. Dr. Harney, if you could just update us on what transpired yesterday, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll take you back to actually Friday real quick. Is probably around 3 o'clock. Actually all the districts received notice or this letter that was going around from Dr. Zucker from the New York State Department of Health that was sent to the CDC where they were taking a look at some of the protocols in regards to mask wearing. So that night I had sent a note saying that we were basically waiting to see if there was more information coming to us. I know there were a number of districts who decided on their own just to make certain decisions. I decided at that time I wanted to wait until we had more information. And then Sunday more information did come to us from 2 ways. You saw something from State Ed, which basically said that the letter from Dr. Zucker said we had to at least wait until we heard from the CDC. That was the first thing. And then we also received another email, really roughly late that night, from Dan Fuller, who is the Deputy Secretary of Education who works in the governor's office, who basically said for Monday that we needed to still follow the mask protocols that were in place. I know there were a few districts that went out and did not do that, and again, that was by their choice. And then Monday, we still followed that, and then Monday, if you followed or listened to the governor yesterday, they decided that they really wanted to try to align their mask wearing protocols. I guess what was happening with camps in the summer camps. And he had talked about at that time, the vaccination rates and all those. But really what came out of it was that schools for outdoors, they were making the recommendation that students and staff during the school, on the school grounds, did not need to be wearing masks while outside, but while inside would still need to follow all mask protocols. So that was kind of the antithesis of the letter that I had sent last night. And then today I received the guidance from the New York State Department of Health, which basically just updated all that's guidance that I just explained to you. And we also received the executive order from the governor, and people often ask, that is something we take an oath that we do need to follow. They are the ones, and you may have heard this actually, some districts got their hands slapped a little bit where the governor's office had contacted them. So those are kind of the reasons and the decisions that when we were going forward. So that kind of brings you to today, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Horning. Any trustees or any updates or questions? Not hearing any, thank you so much. At this time, we would open it up to the community members for any new business. What I would say is we ask that you please be respectful. We would ask that everyone put their mask on. And unfortunately, we will have to close community comments if you come to the podium without your mask on. So we are asking respectfully if you come to the podium to please put your mask on. I'm not saying we agree or we disagree with it, but like Dr. Horning just said, there's an executive order out there right now. So we are respectfully asking that you put your mask on. But if you can come to the podium, we would respectfully ask you to keep it to about 3 minutes. And if you could just tell us if you're from Bayport or Blue Point, we would appreciate it. How are you?
Well, a little tired. Good evening, everybody. I'm not a big public speaker by any means, but this is important and I need to speak out. My name is Nikki Robinson and I have 2 children in the district. I stand here on behalf of my family, friends, and all the children in our district, along with the many families in our community who want their voices heard. Our children have followed the rules and regulations put forth by New York State, the Department of Health, the Suffolk County Department of Health, and our district's opening plan to comply with the safety guidelines of COVID-19 since this pandemic began. Recently, the restrictive guidelines for mask wearing have loosened up across all of New York State. We have gone beyond flattening the curve. In fact, according to Governor Cuomo's tweet last week, he announced there were fewer than 17,000 cases of COVID throughout the entire United States. That's the lowest number in 444 days. On Long Island, the 7-day rolling average of positive cases on June 7th was 0.5%. Why are our children still masked? Why doesn't our district stand up and speak out on their behalf? The CDC and the DOH, along with many doctors, scientists, virologists, and pediatricians, are following the science and studies which back evidence that mask wearing is no longer and perhaps never was effective. Sadly, the last group of people in our society to benefit from these studies are our children. Despite that fact, according to the CDC, children are among the lowest percentage of spread risk. Despite that fact, that studies prove that mask wearing breeds bacteria, respiratory complications, social and educational delays, regression, fear, anxiety, our district's administrators and board members have not done anything to fight for our children's God-given right to breathe freely. Despite the endless requests and supporting documentation they have received from many concerned parents, our district has ignored our pleas to unmask our children. The board members who sit on this panel, who were elected to serve and advocate for our children, have failed our children. Our kids are forced to sit in hot classrooms, play outside during recess and phys ed, fully masked. They are called out in front of their peers. They are embarrassed by teachers and staff if they pull their mask down because they can't breathe. Many have not gotten proper mask breaks. This weekend, immediately after Governor Cuomo and the New York State Commissioner of Health reported mask mandates would be lifted in schools, administrators and parents of neighboring school districts called for emergency Board of Education meetings to discuss the announcement. Where was our meeting? Our district failed to consider the health and well-being of our children. And despite parent pleas, you didn't even agree to discuss the announcement. Why?
Ms. Robinson, I would ask that you please wrap it up.
Governor Cuomo changed his mind after speaking with the CDC and now states masks should be worn in school. Our children are upset. They are confused. No one had their backs, and it's enough. We are asking you, please unite with us and support our campaign to free our children. We need you to write letters and make phone calls on our behalf and let the state departments know that we've had enough. We will no longer allow our children to be pawns. That decisions such as masking our children should be parental decisions and not the state's.
Thank you so much, Ms. Robinson. Any other community members? Hey, Ms. Cavuto, how are you?
Thank you. How are you? I'm Elizabeth Cavuto. I have 2 children in the district. I live in Bayport. I also am not a great public speaker. I don't think I can do much better than Nikki, but I'll try. First, I always will say that I understand that administrators and the board are in a difficult position at this time. I'm not here to complain. I do not want to give anyone a hard time, but I'm speaking up for my children. This is my duty as a mother. I will never apologize for it, and I will never stop. As administrators and elected Board of Ed members, this is your duty as well. I've had to be stronger this year as a parent than ever before, and I'm afraid this is just the beginning. With ideas like mandated COVID vaccines for children, offering COVID vaccines in schools, and critical race theory looming. Administrators and boards of education need to be stronger now than ever too. Other districts have written letters to Governor Cuomo objecting to the continuation of mask mandates. When will we do this? When will BBP advocate for their students? I'm begging you to be strong and advocate for us. Stand with us. We will be stronger together. I implore you, as I have done many times in emails, to contact Governor Cuomo, the county and state health departments, state and local politicians immediately. One day of unnecessary masking is one day too many. Please, I implore you, show us that you have our kids' best interest in mind. Show us that you are the strong advocates you were hired and elected to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cavuto.
My name is Amy Hope, and I'm a Bayport resident. And I have 2 questions tonight that I would like the answer to. I feel that just me commenting, although I have a ton to say, would leave this empty and void of response and results. So I ask you this. A, what will happen when a child refuses to wear a mask? I've asked it before and have not gotten a clear answer. And B, what will you be doing, our administrators and our Board of Education, to fight for these children like we're asking?
So, Ms. Hope, you've actually asked me that question, and I do believe I have answered it, but I will absolutely repeat it again. So the question related to, well,
Your answer was that this has not come up yet, and you would assume that an administrator would contact the home. What would follow?
It is, I mean, if you're asking for a point-by-point, what is going to
I
happen?
would like to know, are you going to say...
Ms. Hope, you're not even letting me, let me respond.
I know, I'm going to make it clear. Are you going to say, come pick up your child?
What would happen in a situation, just like we would do with any situation where we're asking a student to follow one of the protocols or procedures in place. Again, a lot of it will depend on the age of the student and the situation. So I cannot give you a clear that for every single situation, this is what's going to happen. But if you're asking myself, and it may depend even at the building level during what the situation is. If you're asking about would we be asking a student to put their mask on, yes, we would, especially if we were inside, because those are the guidelines that we were given. If a student refused it at that time, would we then try to have a conversation with that student? Yes, we would. Would we follow then up with a phone call to yourself or the parent? Yes, we would. If at that point then you said that, I'm not going to pick them up or something, then we would look to follow the protocols. And if we had to then, or as we talked about, make sure we maintain the social distance, and then we'd continue our conversation from there. But it really would depend on the situation. I kind of just went through them. We would start with the child. We would then call you.
We're not looking for back and forth with the superintendent.
I've actually just answered them. If you're asking what type of discipline or something like that is going to be attached to something, again, it's going to depend on the situation, just like anything else would.
Any other community members' questions?
Good evening.
I would say, Ms. McCormick,
I
if you could
understand that you have
respectfully
asked.
you could respectfully put your mask on, we truly would appreciate it.
I have a disability note from my doctor that notes that I have a disability, that I cannot tolerate a mask. I also came back from major surgery from the hospital where I need my oxygen to breathe to recover. Would you like to see this note? It's actually dated back in July 23rd when I had a complete asthma attack that I couldn't breathe, that I went and got the doctor's note. So if you would like this and allow me to speak, I would greatly, I would appreciate it, and I'll share it with you. So am I able to speak? Am I allowed to speak? Or are you going to discriminate against my disability? You let me know.
Listen, I understand your concern. I understand the frustration. I get it.
I'm 6 feet away from everybody. I am away.
Well, no one said you couldn't. So I'm just saying,
I'm not
let's
6
be
foot.
respectful.
I am
I'm
6
being very
feet.
respectful to you. I would ask the same thing to you. I appreciate that. But I've been nothing but respectful. Ms. McCormick, yep, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I have sent many emails, as you know, to the BOE, and I'm not a parent that, stands by when something does not seem right. I've come to BO meetings. I'm very involved. I'm on the BIC. I'm very respectful. I ask questions. And I've asked questions to the BOE several times to also get an answer individually, and I've gotten 2 lines saying that you'll discuss this when further guidance is available. I want to ask tonight, individually, if I'm allowed, to each BOE member, where do you stand on parental choice with my body, my choice? Is that allowed? And can we get an answer?
Thank you so much, Ms. McCormick. Unfortunately, you are not allowed to poll the board. I will take this question back to the board, and we will get you a group statement. We do not poll the board, but I will say is I've been more than open to speaking to you to the last 3 days. I've been texting with you every day. I have answered every question, not to your satisfaction, but I have answered all of your questions. But I can't answer you every question you have with a collective group because we have not had a discussion about it. But I promise you I will get you an answer to that question. But I think you would agree that I've been more than open
Yes, and I want to
speaking
thank
to you
you.
for the last 4 days.
And I thank you, and I thank Dr. Harney. Dr. Harney, you have been amazing at responding, and I know that you're getting a lot of calls from a lot of concerned parents on both sides. But at the end of the day, we vote individual board members in, hoping and having faith and trust that you guys hear community members with their concerns. And I've had cordial discussions with maybe 3 people on the board, and I've had 1 member actually tell me that they don't have to talk to me rudely. Okay? I hope that in the future, the BOE members actually engage with community members, respond back to their emails. I'm not sure if I have to ask individually and send them separate emails and not a blanket email to the BOE, but I hope that in the future that you have the community's back and concerns and take it really seriously. I'm not saying you don't, but when a community member asks for individual input, they should actually get a response. Also,
Ms. McCormick, I would say you've always got a response. You do not get an individual response. You get a group response from the board. You do not get an individual response per se, each board member. I will give you a group email in regards to the board president, whoever that may be. He or she does speak for the board on emails. If we do not have that answer, we will get it for you.
thank you. But my question is, do you guys vote on this issue? Do you guys collectively vote and say, yes, you can, and say that for me individually? I mean, if I was on the board and we had to vote and somebody had to speak up for me, I would want a clear, maybe I don't agree with what the board is explaining to the community members.
That's the unique thing about the Board of Education. If 4 people vote something in, the other 3 people must go along with it. That is why we're a team up here. We go with the majority.
Right. So when you respond to me for the board, has there been a vote? Is there a vote to respond?
But I don't respond to you that locks us into anything. I just respond to you. I will, whatever information per se, as you did today, you asked for the code of conduct. I got you the code of conduct. That wasn't a vote on anything. That was just information in regards to something we need to discuss. I will get you an answer in regards to the board's position along with the administrative team.
Okay. I'm sorry, I know my 3 minutes is up. I also, on May 7th, sent emails to you, Michael, and you said that you would discuss this with the board. It is now June 8th, a month later. I haven't been able to reach back out to you regarding that email because I've had major surgery, and I was released from the hospital a week and a half ago. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I apologize.
Alive, and I'm glad I'm here to be able to speak on behalf of a few concerned parents. But you told me that you would have these discussions with the board and bring it up. We sent you a seminar with renowned doctors speaking about masking kids and how dangerous they are, and physiologically and psychologically. Just the other day, I had a 2nd grader, one of my best friend's child, at a restaurant, sweating and masked. And I said, you can take that mask off. And she said, no, I'm scared. And I said, scared of what? She said, scared of getting in trouble. This child cannot breathe, and she couldn't take it off when all the adults had it off because she was scared of getting in trouble. I said, to who? But this is the psychological damage that we're doing to these kids. They're scared to take it off because they're scared of getting in trouble. They can't breathe.
Mr. McCormick, I'm sorry what you heard. I'm sorry that for the student. What I can say is I'm sorry about your surgery. But I would say right now the governor does have an executive order that we must follow. Whether we agree with it or not, we must follow it. So I'm sorry.
I understand you have to follow it, okay? But there's also a part where you even told me, Michael, that you don't believe that these children should be masked. So as the board,
but the problem is, it doesn't matter what I believe or don't believe. The governor right now has said we will be wearing masks indoors. This district was a local decision not to wear masks outdoors. So we are following the guidelines. Mr. McCormick, if you'd like to have a conversation after, I will stay after. I don't think this is the place that we should keep going back and forth, so I would ask you to please
I'll wrap it up.
Close out the comment session, and we can have a conversation after.
The other thing, Ms. McCormick, if there is an individual situation, one is I'll be honest with you, I'm extremely proud of the staff that I work with here. Extremely proud. We have over 15 months gone through things that nobody has gone through.
I'm sorry,
right?
Dr. Harney, hold on, I couldn't hear.
we've been, for 15, 16 months, we have gone through what nobody else has ever gone through. There's no doubt about that, right? So as you know, information comes to us very much on the fly, and there are certain guidelines that we have to follow. But when we're talking about our staff, I mean, a lot of the schools that people talk about is, I'm proud to say that we barely have ever had to close our schools. And that's because of the work that we're doing here and following some of the information that's given to us and the hard work of our staff. There is no doubt about that. People talk to me about schools that were doing this. I also know schools that have been closed 30 times over the course of the year where we have not been able to. And it's not, again, about individual schools, but when we talk about Bayport Blue Point, I think we have done a tremendous job. And one, people talk about keeping our students safe. I think we have done that. If you go into classrooms, and I go into classrooms on a regular basis, there are happy kids in classrooms. I know the picture that's being painted is not always that. That's what I'm hearing, but they absolutely are. If there are individual situations, and I think you know this better than anyone, you can call me. I will call you back. You can send me an email. I will get you. Last couple of days it's been a little bit harder because I've had so many, but I've been trying to still do that. So I think you know that. Or if someone is having an issue within a building, then have that conversation with somebody. We welcome that because that's kind of the environment we have created here. It's really about, one, putting our students in the best possible position for them to succeed, as well as our staff. And I think that is really what we've been focusing on over the 15 months. And I would put us against any other district. I really would. I'm extremely proud of the people that I work with here because of everything that they have done. So I can understand there may be individual situations. Let us know, and we'll be more than happy to address them and look into it. We never will put something, just put it under the rug. That's not how we operate. So I welcome that.
And I'm not saying that the administrators and the teachers and staff have not done a great job. I know that this is hard, and they've done an extremely hard and a fabulous job of keeping our kids safe. There are teachers that are more strict about masks and don't give many mask breaks than other teachers who are lenient and give, a lot of mask breaks. I'm just saying collectively, the science is out. Masks are unsafe. They don't prevent transmission, just like the plastic barriers they once thought did. And now it's time that we ask your support to write to Cuomo and say, okay, it's time to unmask. Governor Murphy just released and said it's up to the schools. Let the parents and the teachers and administrators all work together to decide what's safe and best for our kids. Our kids, and people are saying, oh, it's only 2 weeks, 2 more weeks left of school. But you know what? The 2 weeks have turned into 429 days. And 15 days to slow the spread. It's enough. I also want to address something I think the last board meeting. I was actually in the hospital, and it was important for me to actually log on and watch the BOE meeting because there were certain things in the agenda that I was very curious about. One of them was the approving unanimously of the vaccine site at this school. I sat there in tears in the hospital watching this go on. I've seen you guys ask more, harder, and tougher questions on lights for the BBP than questions on this vaccination site approval. I'm not sure if you've read the guidelines of the vaccination sites or EUA of all the vaccines. But there was one question that you guys asked collectively as a BOE, and that was if the fire department was considered. Nobody had an answer. Nobody asked the hard questions. Nobody asked anything regarding this, and you unanimously voted yes. I want to know if you guys understand that there's supposed to be a crash. A crash cart on site. Who is supposed to vaccinate the kids? Is it just for kids? Is it for the community?
No,
you guys didn't ask these hard questions, and you unanimously voted yes.
Thank you, Mr.
How is that?
I can talk to that because actually I did talk about it at that meeting. So when we had talked about the vaccination site, the idea of it was if we ever wanted to offer vaccines here, you needed to do an MOU with the Suffolk County Department of Health. So we chose to do that. If we were ever to become a vaccine site, it was never, and this is some of the questions, it was not with the intent of vaccinating children at the time. It was for the community, because there are many communities where vaccines were very difficult to come by if people wanted them. And that was the idea of this, is something that I truly believe the school district is the center of our community. I really do. Being here now for 13, 14 years myself, Maybe I don't live here, but I consider myself part of this community, very much so. So when we were thinking about this, we said, well, here's an opportunity. If we ever wanted to, or were put in a spot where we needed to offer or wanted to offer a vaccine to the people of our community, that was the premise behind it. It wasn't about, and people have asked, oh, would you do it without permission or any of that? That is not the intent at all. It was more for offering the community, for people who wanted to pursue this, that we'd be able to do it. And to do it, we had to have an MOU in place. It doesn't mean that we will actually do it, but we wanted to have it in place. That was really it.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick.
But to
We appreciate-
prove
we
something
appreciate your
without
time tonight, Ms.
questioning,
McCormick.
that's just really hard for me as a parent to sit here and watch. And I've been to a lot of BO meetings.
McCormick, we thank you for your time. We appreciate
and
it. I
just to
will
let
stay
you know,
after.
we have
I
4 or
will
5
stay after if you'd
pharmacies
like to discuss
along
further.
Montauk Highway between Patchogue and Sayville.
Ms.
4,
McCormick,
5
I will stay
maybe.
after if
Okay,
you'd like to speak
so
further.
I just want to say, when you guys approve unanimously on something just very important as approving vaccination sites or, masking our children or fighting for our children's safety and health, I'm saying you guys do a good job of that.
Thank you, Ms.
But
McCormick.
the science is there. Read the science that we send you, please. And please, we would love
Thank you, Ms.
public
McCormick.
input and watch you guys talk like that and say what Sachem did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick. Any other community members, any questions? Any other community? How are you, sir?
Hold the mute button down for a second until it turns green. Yeah, the mute button, just hold it down. Anthony, just hold the mute button down for like a couple seconds until it turns green.
Thank you for coming.
In this overall situation that they're not utilizing. It specifically says in New York State guidance that masks shall be worn unless they can't be tolerated. That's the language in there. So you have the discretion to do certain things. And I have a question about discretion. It's now 10 to 10. Mr. Miller, does the board have the discretion to change the schedule around for the night's meeting? Can you allow for the public comment portion early in the evening than you've done so here tonight?
Yes, but if you remember, I said in the beginning we're going to be moving it because of the 10-year and the celebrations and all the presentations.
Okay.
We were not aware of how many public comments were going to be happening tonight.
So my question is, if you've kept us sitting here till 10 o'clock and nothing against Mr. Schneider or Dr. Fuller with your presentations, you have a large number of people here who came here to speak. Half of them had to leave because it's now 10 o'clock. You could have done this earlier. People wanted to speak. They weren't able to be heard. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but there is a certain level of distrust people in this district have with the board, the district, and its administrators.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Well, I'm letting you know. That's what I'm doing.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Well, it's not just me, sir.
I would love to have a conversation with you offline about some examples of why you feel that way. This will not be the time, but I would love to have a conversation with you.
That's absolutely fine, sir. And all I'm doing is letting you know that a large number of these people here and people who couldn't make it are distrustful of the board and the district, and they're very frustrated with what's been going on both this year and in years past, from what I've been told. Jumping to something related, Dr. Harney, you were nice enough to recap the events of this past weekend. Dr. Zucker,
Mrs. Rosa Emperor Cuomo and his edicts that he issued. I'm just curious, Dr. Harney, about how many different people or families off the top of your head have emailed or called you in the past few days? If you had a guess.
Probably on both sides of the fence, are we talking?
Yep. No, I'm talking about people who...
Well, why don't we hear about both? So if you were talking about both.
Sure.
Probably 15 or so who wanted to talk about letting our students be unmasked, 20 maybe, and probably a similar number in terms of people who said thank you very much.
And Mr. Miller, would you say you've heard from about the same number of people?
I've heard, I would say that's fair. About 20 people have emailed me, and I know my phone number has been out there. I've received numerous amount of texts. I don't know who they are, but I have responded to all of them. But we have received emails on both sides. Some people do not want to be vocal. They want to just email, and they want to be behind the scenes.
Okay, so you both receive emails, phone messages, texts from a large number of people.
Well, I wouldn't say, 20.
What, excuse me? Okay. So you also would admit that there's people who aren't vocal, that probably aren't contacting you, that possibly would be upset with something the district or the board's doing. That's a reasonable statement, is it not?
I think that's unreasonable. If we have 10,000 voters, we're talking about 20 emails.
Okay, be that as it may.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would want to speak for other people.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak for the community.
Be that as it may, there's clearly people who aren't happy with the district at this moment.
I think that's an opinion. That's a strong opinion that you share.
Okay, if I could finish my statement, sir? Like my wife said and like Mrs. Robinson said, or they both asked and it wasn't answered, how come the district, the board, Dr. Harney, how come you didn't write a letter to Governor Cuomo like many other districts did? How come an emergency meeting was not held on Sunday like was done in a number of districts? That's what these folks and myself are frustrated about. We feel that there's a constant inaction from the board and from the superintendent. Could you answer that question? Why were neither of those things done?
An emergency meeting was not needed because if you, like Dr. Harney mentioned earlier, Mr. Fuller did provide an email to the attorneys that we should not make any moves until further guidance is given. I know you're going to mention the Sachem board meeting. That same email was discussed. I can't speak to why they chose to do what they did, but they have backtracked since.
So the answer is you just chose not to do it. You chose not to send her a letter?
Because we knew from our attorney that this was not the decision that should be made. We had to wait for further guidance. That is why we did not have an emergency meeting.
What about sending a letter to the governor?
That is something we
on
can
behalf of the parents
we
of
can
this
have
district.
that conversation with the board, and we can get back to you on that.
So that's something you'll still consider?
I can't speak for the board, and I would like to speak. I'll have a conversation with them, and I will definitely let you know next meeting if anything will be going out.
Okay. Just a couple more questions. Dr. Harney, could you just please share with us what the current policy is in regards to visitors at sporting events, in regards to parents coming to watch sporting events?
I believe Section 11 has basically loosened up on all those for parents going to sporting events.
So what's the current policy here in Bayport Blue Point in regards to
I don't
visitors?
have it in front of me, and I don't want to be misquoted, so I can give that to you.
We can definitely get you that answer. I mean, after this meeting, we can definitely shoot you an email to give you the exact verbatim answer.
You can't give me a rough guesstimate of what the policy is in your own district in regards to parents coming to watch sporting events?
As I said, Mr. Cavuto, if that's what you, I don't want to be misquoted, so.
Is it not something like 2 parents can come per student to watch their students play?
That's what it was at one time. That is correct, and that's what I would have to verify for you.
Okay, so the reason I ask it is today at Academy Street Elementary there was field day. It was my 5th grade daughter's last field day. She didn't have a field day last year. So myself and some of the parents who are here tonight had to watch field day through a chain link fence like we were watching a prison yard. Again, this is getting back to discretion.
I think that's a little
Excuse me, folks. You're welcome to come up and speak after me. Why don't you let me talk? Have some respect.
We're all going to be respectful. Mr. Kavutz, I think we can have a conversation offline. We appreciate your comments. A prison, I don't know if that's a good comparison or a fair comparison, but I'm sorry you feel that way.
Okay, so to get to my point, parents were allowed to come and watch sporting events for the past few weeks wearing a mask, which I would have been happy to do, but you didn't let parents come and watch field day on the field with their children. Can you explain that to me, Dr. Harney?
Yeah, I sure can. I believe I actually sent your wife an email about that as well. So I did hear that you were at field day today, so it was great that you were able to see your child. When we had talked about field day a number of weeks ago, obviously at that time the situation was a little bit different, all right? So when we had talked about it with myself and the administrators, at that time we talked about not allowing parents at field day. Not because we just want to keep parents out, it was really, again, for safety reasons. Now, when you talk about sports, number one, sports was done after school, and Section 11 did a lot of those, or came from the New York State Sports Association. So they had different guidelines that they were following, so we were following those. Also, when it comes to sports, parents were kept away from the students, and we also did not have school going on during the day. So that is another thing. But during field day, because we were trying to keep the students in cohorts, and one of our most major concerns was really to offer the students an opportunity for field day. And I'm actually very, again, happy and proud to say that we were able to offer field day to our students. And I can tell you, if you're comparing to other, not every district was able to do that or chose to do it. We chose that was a priority for us, that we wanted the students to have an experience. And by doing that, we were able to do that. Now, when you're talking about field day in terms of having outsiders in, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, probably you are, is that there is no other entity that still has to report positive cases to the state. There's no other entity that still has to do contact tracing. There's no other entity that basically still has to report it both to Suffolk County and those. And still has to quarantine. So we are still that one entity that still needs to. And the last thing I wanted to do is to bring in the possibility of where somebody came with a positive case, and then we had to do contact tracing and quarantining, and now we're having students miss their end of the year activities. Because again, to me, it's always been more about the students. So that was really our rationale for that at this time.
Okay, but all those things would apply if a parent who was positive came to a lacrosse game, but that's not an issue with that. But it became an issue with field day. Agree to disagree, sir. That's fine. I just have one last thing. Dr. Harney, are you familiar with the statement that was issued by Levittown School District yesterday in regards to masks?
Can you repeat that? What school district?
Are you familiar with the statement that was issued by the Levittown School District yesterday in regards to masks? Dr. Harney?
No, I'm not.
I'll read it for you. In consultation with the Levittown Board of Education, and as temperatures are forecast to be extremely warm tomorrow with uncomfortably high heat indexes, please be advised that students will only be expected to wear masks indoors as tolerated. And I bring that up in closing, and I want to tie it to what I began with. Discretion, folks. This can be done. You can make a statement like this, and this is what I'm calling on the board to do. Make a statement just like the Levittown School District did, which gives students, teachers, families, and the district the discretion to honor parental choice and let people, families, parents, and students do what they want within the guidelines. It can be done. That's all we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other community member questions? How are you? Thank you for staying so late.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Pignataro. I live in Bayport, and I'm about to shock these parents.
Say that again?
My name is Nicole Pignataro, and I live in Bayport, and I'm about to shock these parents. I've had many colorful conversations with some of these parents in the parent group. I agree with some of the things that they say, but I understand that once the state education department threw their hat into the ring on Friday, you had your hands tied even further behind your back. You could not. There was no way. We can't go against the Department of Health ever for any reason, whether it be COVID, whether it be how we clean our cafeterias. There are rules you must follow, and we understand that. The thing that I think that they're upset about, which is, I'm not speaking for them, but from what I'm hearing from them, is they just want you to speak out on behalf. I think they finally realize that you can't go against the Department of Health, that you can't go against the Department of Ed. especially knowing that if you did what Sachem did, that you risked your job and your license as the superintendent of this district. The board could have been replaced. The state could have taken over this district. We could have lost our insurance. And that's not what any of us want for this district, because we do all care about our children.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. All right, guys, thank you so much. No, we're gonna keep it cordial. We're gonna keep it cordial, guys. Thank you so much. And we have two more. I would just respectfully ask that you keep your comments coming to us, please, and let's not have any controversy with community members.
No problem.
How are you?
Good, thank you. My name is Marie Nealon. I'm a parent in Blue Point of a second grader in Blue Point Elementary School. And I've heard so much confusion and disinformation tonight that, forgive me for stating the obvious, but masks work. Masks have been effective in limiting the spread of transmission of COVID-19, and that is why we have been able to have so much in-person schooling. Masks work. The science is definitive. That is why surgeons wear masks, because they prevent the spread
Keep it
of
respectful.
germs.
Keep it respectful.
And I would add that many of the people from your section of the room went way over 3 minutes, so I would appreciate it if you could just listen.
Thank you so much.
Masks work. Vaccines work. Children under 12 are not able to have the COVID vaccine yet. Masks are keeping those kids safe. If masks were as damaging to children's health as COVID-19 was, the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC and the National Institute of Health would not be recommending universal mask wearing as they are. I would also point out that mask wearing protects those around us. This is not something that should be optional. Public schools have a responsibility to limit the transmission of communicable illnesses, from the common cold, where we have policies in place where we ask parents, please do not send your child to school sick, to requesting vaccination records, to mandating universal mask wearing. There is a reason why public schools have these policies in place. It is to keep children safe. We have a few more weeks left. I am so glad that the Board of Education and our superintendents are not requesting to go against the guidance of public health experts. Thank you for that. Thank you for continuing to keep in place the policies that have been so successful throughout this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And our last community member, thank you so much for staying. We appreciate it.
And I will not take a lot of time. My name is Holly Iolucci. I'm from Blue Point. I have 2 children at Blue Point Elementary School. And this evening started celebratory. And I really hope that I get to end it that way by simply saying thank you. Thank you to the administration. Thank you to the board. Thank you to the teachers who have done everything to make sure our kids are safe and had an amazing, consistent school year that supported them academically, socially, and emotionally during these insane times. They have built resiliency, and that is more important than anything else. I appreciate the restraint you showed, Dr. Harney, on Friday by not just making a decision to make a lot of people happy, because we didn't have to then disappoint and confuse kids come Monday like many other districts did. I appreciate your support and everything you've done for our kids. I celebrate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just in closing, I would say before we get into the agenda, I hope this topic does not pin people against each other. We are one community. We do love each other. We all have one goal here. We want the best for our students. We want the best for our staff. Dr. Harney and his team has done a tremendous job over the last year, and should thank them. It is a thankless job sometimes for some of the emails he receives. So I do want to publicly say I am sorry for the emails that he gets, but he handles it with charisma, he handles it with charm, and he handles it with professionalism. We thank Dr. Horner for everything he does, always. Moving into the agenda, can I have a motion to approve items K, L, M, N, L, M, N, O, and P? Mr. Brodsky, second by Ms. Byrne. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a consent agenda for the regular agenda as well. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 5 under the regular agenda? Second by Mr. Krug. Just want to acknowledge the budget vote did pass, as you know. Thank you so much to the community members for their continued support. We do want to thank Ms. Cerrone. She will be a new trustee here, so congratulations to Ms. Cerrone. And in the back, you will see Ms. Pendola. Ms. Pendola, congratulations. Looking forward to working with you guys as well. So thank you so much to the community. We're so grateful for the budget. Can I have a motion to, or all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion's approved. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Brodsky, second by Ms. Byrne. All in favor? Thank you guys so much. We're sorry for the late night. Thank you for staying. We truly do appreciate it.